All right, Grand Rising. Grand Rising. Hopefully everyone's doing well this rising. Yeah, we are experiencing a phenomenon as of late, and normally, like we said yesterday, the problem is on our end because of throttling or what have you. But this is new for us. Yeah. And I don't want to be as hubris to think there's anything that we're doing to cause the channel to be blocked by YouTube.
Well, there's a solution for that.
Yes.
I say later on this evening, we run a test, send a test out, and run on our own platform to move forward with running a Rising show directly from the website on our own platform. Just remove YouTube from the whole equation.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the best thing to do, and we'll just post snippets of things that we've already downloaded so people will know, because, yeah, this is... Yeah. Well, the goal was to run on our own server, but we were supposed to, we were waiting to roll that out for, 2020. But obviously, YouTube got other plans.
Even if we finish the week out running on the website and YouTube at the same time, and by Monday's Rising show, just cut the YouTube streams straight up. We don't need it. Give everybody enough time to know where we at directly and stream directly from the website.
Yeah, I mean it's sad, but apparently YouTube doesn't like us anymore. Frida, well, come on in, Frida. You ain't gotta ask. You know the number. The number work. She's talking about something. I need to talk about that. Come on, man. You know what it is. We look on this channel right here. We honor our women. Any information that y'all have, we always appreciate when y'all come on. So don't feel like you gotta ask to come on. The guys don't ask to come on. They just come on. So come on in. So while we wait for Frida to come on in when she has an opportunity, Grand Rising. Hopefully everyone is doing well, and of course David Corey is acting the fool like he always does. He says, "I pity the fool." Grand Rising, everyone. We're glad that you made it. We're glad you weathered the YouTube tsunami, aka storm, aka interference. Want to welcome the new subscribers. Thank you for subscribing, and we appreciate you for joining. Want to thank the silent majority, the Autochthonous Assembly silent majority. We know you out there because we hear from you in the forums and we hear from you in the email. So thank you for doing what you do and making the numbers what they are. And, we definitely appreciate you. And to the best chat on earth. We appreciate all you do. We appreciate you commenting. We appreciate you yielding them ratchets and being, fair and just with them as well, and keeping us on our toes. And one thing I would like to say about the forum, I appreciate all the stuff that y'all put in the forum, but can y'all not put it in the chat? Put what you need to put in the forum, not the chat. And the reason why is because sometimes the chat is an extension of the forum, and if that chat goes down and we bring it back up, we won't be able to recover that information. So we would rather have you put it in the information in those links in the forum. That way we'll always be able to have it and be able to archive it. So hopefully that makes sense. So Bones, is there anything you want to say in reference to the website, the forum, before I go ahead with the roll call? Unless, no, Sella, I'm going to do the roll call.
No, I mean, basically, it's time. It's ours. It belongs to us. It was made by us for us. We had the ability to stay in communication with each other on there. There's global chat on the site. So, yeah, we don't have to worry about no third parties interfering on the information that we're putting out. A lot of the things that it limit us to talk about now because we're on YouTube, the restraints are gone. So that means, you know what I'm saying, the restraints are gone. So they think we uncovering and digging up stuff now. Whew.
Yeah. So we definitely appreciate y'all, but yeah, we definitely got to move to our own platform because it's interesting how certain channels are being affected. They're even cutting some of our content and splicing it like we didn't say it. That's the reason why I always tell people, if you have content on YouTube, please make sure and ensure you are recording it on a separate device and maintaining it. So again, not knocking YouTube because it's their platform, they can do what they want, but for your own keepsakes and for your own
artistic integrity,
thank you, please make sure you're recording it to a device that you can disconnect from the computer and archive it so that you'll be able to access it in the event that YouTube decides to change directions. I mean, it's a company, they can do what they want, and when we sign up, we are adhering to their rules and their regulations. So it is what it is. It sucks, but that's why we got to get our own ish. All right, so you want to do the roll call, no sellout, or you want me to do it?
Grand Rising, peace to the chat. I got it. I can do it. I can handle that.
All right, you handle that there. Handle it.
Peace to the panel. Ohio player, PGs and Pope, peace. KSR, Grand Rising. David Corey, peace. Liz Robinson, Grand Rising. This is a new stream, TMH. Did we restart? I think we did. I think I just did. David Corey, Grand Rising. Peace to everybody that was in the other chat earlier. You know who you is. Liz Robinson again. Celestial Love, Grand Rising. El Boria, peace. Joe 47, HTTR. Pamela Hall, Grand Rising. Oak Cliff, Grand Rising. Star Strike, Grand Rising. Peace, Frida Rente. Ain't no oppressor. What you talking about? Who we got? Lily Orchard, Grand Rising, Miss Rames. Is she on here?
Yes.
What's going on, Gabby?
Grand Rising.
Mrs. Bing Rain. No, Feather Dragon, Grand Rising. Mr. TJ, peace. Where we at? Who we got? Swarth Vader, Grand Rising, peace. Chopper, 803, Grand Rising. Mike Easton, what's going on? Grapple nobody. And I think that's it. But anybody that was in the last chat that ain't speaking now, Grand Rising, peace to you. Peace. Swarth Vader, that is not a swarthy hand, but okay. I'll take the yellow. You went straight pale.
You see how you be setting people up? You see how you just be setting people up? Maybe he don't know how to make the hand melanated. You ever thought about that? Maybe his melanated button is broke. You ever thought about that? Yeah.
Possibly. I'm just,
Maybe he need to reboot his phone until he reboots his melanin button.
And that was my way of mentioning it. That's exactly what I said. I don't know why you.
And then you gonna call out your cuz after your brother set up with the picture.
Hey, it's a mighty fine icon.
You see how they did that, Gabby? You see how they did you? You see how they went to you?
Yeah.
Hey.
Antonio give you the picture, and then don't sell out. He just call you out like it was your idea. You see how they work?
People see it. I ain't have to call it out. I say Lily Orchard, the man with a fedora on. No damn Lily.
That's them your peoples, them your nephews, okay?
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to building roads and building pyramids, awesome. Building relationships, they need a lot of work.
That ain't true.
Straight up suckfest going on around here. Anyway. Mm-hmm. So we're gonna go ahead and hit this clock so we can go ahead and get it in, and we can talk about what we learned yesterday.
see what David Corey told me about. I told y'all a long time ago I don't have Indians' hands on my screen either. And I think everybody's text messaging app nowadays should at least have that. I think that at least the last update that you had, even 3 years ago.
Look, I'm about to sound like old man. Well, get a crayon and color the hands there. You be happy.
What if the screen scroll up now and it's just gonna have a little spot right down the screen? Rita, what you want me to do with that?
I'm gonna hit the clock because y'all goofy.
I'm trying to figure out. I was staring at it and not showing it, thinking that maybe we should hide it because it's her email address. But all right, it's all right.
Go ahead.
Grand Rising approved. Matter of fact, let me drop the email there. I'm sure I got it.
What the world? Hold on.
Try to type a time.
My soundbite is didn't play from the beginning. There we go. Alright, there we go. We in there. Now y'all know what time it is. People with a ratchet, y'all know what to do. Hand out that equipment like y'all normally do. Somebody get on that backhoe, that front end loader, that bulldozer. Somebody grab a pickaxe. Pickaxe. Ooh, pickaxe. Yeah, that dyslexia is real. Somebody get that jackhammer. Don't do that.
Friday, dyslexia.
Yo, so. Now everybody talking about the melanated hands, and everybody talking about something they ain't got on their computer. If you click on it, you'll see the yellow square. If you click on the yellow square, then it'll go brown. It'll give you different shades of brown. Do we need to have a tutorial? Yeah.
Mr. TJ got jokes. Why Mr. TJ showing this? Look, he got jokes. Like, look, I got all of them. In different areas. Look at everybody showing off. What's going on? That's messed up.
Hey, Bones, I was just thinking about something.
Ice cream. That's what that look like.
Bones.
Want to lick? Like.
Bones. Mm-hmm. I was thinking about, we need to do a show about the headdress for the Southern Indians because, you know, they wore turbans with feathers in it, right? And even with these pictures of these Indians, these chiefs, they're wearing the turbans and they got the feathers in it. So we need to put that on our list of things to do.
Yeah, we can do a cultural breakdown.
Yeah, thank you.
Definitely most needed.
See, I like the way he put that because it's called a cultural breakdown, people. Y'all knew that I didn't, so I'm just saying that for me. So y'all know that I know now because I didn't know then. But anyway, what happened? So here we go. What did we learn yesterday? And I learned not to ask, don't sell out. So that's what I learned.
I was already on mute. I came off mute to tell you I was going on mute.
Yeah, I learned not to ask, no sell out what we learned yesterday. That's what I learned. So what else I learned is that YouTube is starting not to like us. I don't know what we did to them.
Well, you know what we did.
But for whatever reason, they picking at us. Could they be co-partnered with Comcast? Maybe, because we just started having these problems until later. I'm just saying.
Quick, fast suppression.
We just started having these problems, so we mentioned Comcast. I'm just saying.
What's going on over
I don't know. Maybe it's me. One other thing we learned is that when it came to the Second Seminole War, there were no treaties. You know? You had the First Seminole War. They couldn't beat them, so there was no treaty. The Second Seminole War came to an end. There was no treaty. And now they're talking about the Third Seminole War. Well, normally wars end when there's a treaty, right? Right? So World War I, when World War I ended, there was a treaty. When the Revolutionary War ended, there was a treaty. So how is it you're going to have a Seminole War? It doesn't end, but then you break it up into three separate wars when it's the same war that you didn't win. So we learned that there was no treaty. They had an act, but there was no treaty. What else did we learn? Oh man, I'm learning I can't read my own handwriting.
That's what you get when you lump a whole bunch of Indians under one class or name.
Mm-hmm. Freedom Reader says they are taking their tours and going back to their techie corners. Y'all crazy. So what else we learned? Ohio Player says they show that Harriet commercial 10 times in a row.
Look away!
We also learned that the Southern Indians were allowed, using air quotes, to stay in Southwest Florida. They were allowed to stay down there. It had absolutely nothing to do with they was getting their butt whips every time they went south. So we also learned that the war was costing the U.S. $93,000 per month. And over the course of 7 years, that was $7.8 million in the 1840s and 50s. That's a lot of money to be investing to lose that war. So now you understand why they're so bitter and why Florida's American Indians catch so much flack. And I think Bones and Gabby was bringing it to our attention. What else did we learn yesterday? Chief Bowlegs. He was a bad man until he wasn't. And what I mean by bad, I meant bad meaning bad, not bad meaning good. Or bad meaning good, not bad meaning bad, until he was bad meaning bad. He ended up fighting for the Union. And they tried to change turn his tribe into his slaves when he ended up going to Oklahoma. So what else did I learn? The military ended up having to use immigrants coming in to settle the land and fight on their behalf so they can expand the territory that way up north so they can gain more access and control of the land. And like Bones was saying yesterday, 2 miles outside of the perimeter of the fort, which allowed the soldiers to patrol 5 miles past the property, which basically means they had a 7-mile radius to cover. David Corey says bow-legged Lou. And then we learned that the 1860 census was used to aid in the Confiscation Act because that 1860 census was the most detailed census of all the census since and before and since. It was basically an inventory of everything. And that's how they end up taking everything from my ancestors. And we saw that they were labeling and categorizing people as black back in the 1860 census. So, anything anybody want to discuss about that before we move forward?
Mainly that a lot of leaves on your tree, in some cases where it's hard to find people, that's where these timelines come into play. So you can get a better idea of where people were moving to and what was going on. To give you a better area and location of where to look in most cases.
And also, as a suggestion, and this is something I learned from Bones, is that whenever you're looking at a census year, you may want to have the instructions for the enumerators with you so you can see how they were doing things, because it'll give you a better overall view. So look at the timeline, look at what country was in control of that time period, so you'll know exactly where to go to get those archives. And then you want to have the instructions from the enumerator to see how they were labeling people, because that will also help you. Remember, this is like a PhD research. It's going to require everything and all the information that you have at your disposal to find out who your people are, if that makes sense. And that's the reason why we do these shows in the Horizon, so to try to give you bits and pieces that's going to help you find out who your people are. So, unless anybody else got anything to say about that, I'm going to go ahead and send the link to the Third Seminole War, and then we're going to get to the Texas Indian War. So, Mr. TJ says crazy, everything copy and paste out here from Mississippi. Again, that's why, we always suggest that you get your get everything, get paper copies of stuff.
That's why, even though we're in the digital age, when you attack genealogy, still attack it from the old school way. Hand the paper, hand the pen to paper. Yes, use the digital format to get the records, to get the information, to verify it. But if you're going to download, don't download the digital copies, download the actual copies. If you can, purchase the actual copies. Because like we say all the time, digital, they can do anything at any given time and change all of this. It's about having our records, being the keepers of our records. So you come across the original documents, download them, purchase them, do whatever you have to do to make sure you can keep a physical copy of your ancestors and who you are.
I mean, that goes for a lot of things anyway. I remember when my wife's mom passed away, one of her records that got moved from paper to digital, the beneficiary was lost in the transfer, and that was my wife. So, yeah, if you didn't have a paper copy of that, then you can't really prove that you're the beneficiary or something. Same thing goes for genealogy records, any records.
So, Bones, you see what Gabrielle put in the Zoom chat?
I called in.
Okay. Well, she just, of course, because Gabby is Gabby and Gabby do what she do. She put the link to YouTube and Comcast. I think this needs to be shared. So you want to share it? Or you want me to share it? Okay. All right, Gabby. Tell them what you found.
All right.
You know we get into it.
YouTube and Google are actually what it looks like is they're partners, and they're partners through a company called Republic. And Republic, they did that through, Google owns YouTube, and then Comcast owns NBCU. Both of them came together. It's Vox Media and Republic are the companies that they operate together through. So Comcast may be upset about YouTube.
That's what she's saying.
They're not saying they're partners, but they both operate from the same company called Republic.
Right. So again, that's why we always tell people, you got to follow the money. You got to follow the companies. See, all this information is public knowledge. So while people are talking about laws and all this other stuff, you got to realize who's running what. So again, it wasn't coincidence that the moment we started talking about Harriet Tubman, that all of a sudden our stream got attacked. Now we know why. So if you think about it, we're saying don't go support what? Harriet Tubman's movie, right? Comcast would have an issue with that because it's affecting their money. Well, again, I don't know how y'all neighborhoods work, but where I'm from, if we rolling together, if you got a problem with, say for instance, you got a problem with Bones, you got a problem with me. I don't care if you don't know me, but if you got a problem with Bones, you automatically have a problem with me because we partners in this. So not only you got to worry about him, now you got to worry about me. Don't get it twisted. Companies are the same way because they have a vested interest. So just keep that in mind. That's why we always say you got to look up this stuff. You have to know exactly who's involved in what. So, you know, they work together through Republic, a company called Republic. What does it mean when you send a board of directors and y'all work together? That means y'all a partner.
Yep.
So let's not get this twisted. We
And Mr. TJ, what Mr. TJ put in the chat, yes, you are correct. By the law of the 1866 Civil Rights Act Treaty, if your people was in Chickasaw territory, living on Chickasaw land, yes, they would be Chickasaw Indians. By the 1866 Civil Rights Act or Treaty, whatever you want to call it, correct.
Oak Cliff said 17 million to make. They only made 12 million the first week. They're pissed. Yeah, they're pissed. But at the end of the day, come on, man. Again, partnerships. Again, I don't know how these YouTube streaks work, so I can't speak for YouTube. And when people talk about something neutral, they looking for neutral people. I don't understand what that means because where I'm from, if we roll together, we roll together. That means whatever your issues is, I need to know. Because if something jump off, I'm gonna have your back. But I can't have your back if you grimy. That's why I don't roll with neutral people. Because if you neutral, you'll let anything happen to me. And that's just real talk. Because you have no vested interest in anybody. Your vested interest is you. So YouTube is in partnership with Comcast through a company called Republic. So we were talking about Comcast and all of a sudden our stream got hit. We haven't. Go ahead.
I just put another article.
Yeah, go ahead and post it in the chat. And there is no such thing as coincidences. We didn't have this problem until we started talking about Harriet Tubman. Then we started talking about Comcast, and all of a sudden we buffering like this. So we can't be so naive and succumb to this YouTube mentality. Well, everybody gets along and everybody friends. No, everybody don't get along and everybody ain't friends. And if you grimy, stay away from me. Because at the end of the day, if I'm rolling with you, I have to trust you. Go ahead.
It's been doing. Okay. So all the links that I've been trying to post since yesterday, it won't let me do it. It deletes it.
Okay, we need to give you a ratchet. That's probably why. So
I'm talking about links though. Like when you copy and paste links.
Mm-hmm.
It'll let me make a comment, but if I go to post a link, it deletes it.
Oh yeah, you need a wrench. You need a ratchet.
Oh.
Give me a second.
Yeah, that's what that is.
We got you.
How you gonna be on a panel and not have a ratchet? Ain't that messed up?
Bing been smiling at you this whole time, and ain't nobody thinking you're with a ratchet.
Man, Ving scare me, man, for real. So, yeah, so that's why I'm saying what I'm saying, because people gotta understand. Companies, see, this is what people gotta understand. Companies operate the same way the streets do. It's just YouTube people don't. You got a problem with apparently if you got a problem with Comcast, you got a problem with YouTube. But isn't that the way it's supposed to work? If you got a problem with my tribe, you got a problem with me. So how is it with these YouTube streets where I don't know, if you got a problem with so-and-so, they ain't got nothing to do with me, but we rolling together. Come on, man.
I don't think if you have a problem with Comcast, if you have a problem with Comcast, you have a problem with YouTube. You see where I put it in the chat where it says they're a large spender on state and federal lobbying and election campaigns.
Mm-hmm. So that means they are operating a 504, 505, or 506C.
Apparently.
Because that's on. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
There's been. David Corey, what are you talking about? He says, I've been raising this new hand and y'all can't see me. I know why. You know what? What, David? What, David? What?
You know what an antitrust is?
Yeah, I know what an antitrust is.
Okay, well, that's what Google and Comcast. Comcast and Google emerge as new antitrust.
When you get a chance, put the link in the chat, and then we'll break it down later this afternoon.
Okay.
David's stupid. He's just going back to my white hand. Y'all tend to see it. David, I saw your hand, but I was talking, bro. Come on. Anyway. Why David want to be the soldier and the problem child simultaneously? What's up? What's up with that?
Hey, I think he's the only one that can do it too. Oh man, that's funny. Sorry, David. We see. Grand Rising Patrick Gabriel.
Teaches pet and disruptive student all at the same time. Pamela Hall and Oak Cliff, I'm gonna need y'all to get David. Do something with that man. Do something.
They can see Mr. Whitehand. Look, he's doing it. David Corey, you have a question?
All right, so I put the link in there. Are you able to read? What's up?
Oh, definitely. I need you, aka Van Rains, aka Lily, to post something in the chat real quick.
Yeah, testing. Lily, testing.
Ooh, new petty name. Y'all ready? Petty Rains.
Nope, it ain't.
Petty Rains.
Oh, you whack. You just put the ack and whack.
Petty Rains. Petty Rains.
Yo.
So natural. Freedom Ranger says that they're trying to separate families again. Seriously, this is why so many contexts spells put in my name.
We're gonna find her like Curtis Blow.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, did they find Curtis?
Yes, David. She said whack. So you want me to read? No, stop.
Oh no, I was ready.
Okay, well, we'll get to reading.
Oh no, I was reading the chat. I mean, I was doing some kind of reading. Now, what you want me to read?
The Third Seminole War, so we can get the text.
Army presence in Indian attacks. Are you gonna put that up on the screen for the folks?
Oh, my God.
The call-in number is at the top of the screen, as well as our slides at the middle of the screen, I guess you would say. Mic check. Mic.
You could.
Oh, okay. The Third Seminole War. Third. Increased Army presence and Indian attacks. By late 1855, there were more than 700 Army troops stationed on the Florida Peninsula. Around that time, the Seminoles decided that they would strike back at the increasing pressure being put on them and attack when an opportunity presented itself. Sam Jones may have been the instigator of this decision. Chipco was said to have been against it. On December 7th, 1855, First Lieutenant George Hartsuff, who had led previous patrols into the reservation, left Fort Myers with 10 men and 2 wagons. They found no Seminoles but did pass cornfields and 3 deserted villages, including Billy Bowlegs' village. On the evening of December 19th, Hartsuff told his men that they would be returning to Fort Myers the next day. As the men were loading the wagons and saddling their horses the next morning, December 20th, 1855, 40 Seminoles led by Billy Bowlegs attacked the camp. Several soldiers were shot, including Lieutenant Hartsuff, who managed to hide himself. Seminoles killed and scalped 4 men in the camp, killed wagon mules, looted and burned the wagons, and took several horses. 7 men, 4 of them wounded, made it back to Fort Myers.
Stop.
You want me to run them legs?
So now we got Billy Bowlegs. Okay. Now this is 1855. 6 years before the so-called Civil War, right? 5 years before the census.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing that we got to keep in mind that I keep forgetting, I'm not saying that y'all do, but I keep forgetting, is that we have a lot of Indians that are under the influence of alcohol. So a lot of the decisions are based in and steeped in that. We can't forget that. Now, when you're an alcoholic, it runs your life. So we got to take that into consideration as well. So it's interesting that out of all these wars and all these fights, this is the first time we heard about somebody being scalped in a while, right, Bones?
Yep. But it seems to me they scalping as retaliation.
I don't know if it's them doing it, because I'm gonna ask next time I go to a reservation or talk to an Indian. I'm gonna ask them, is there anything in their Indian history that talks about them scalping anybody? I don't remember any Indians talking about scalping anybody. You only hear it from the white man's side, or the European side, or the colonizer side.
Can I say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
I talked to someone a while back who lives on a reservation. What they said is that it started, the white man started doing it, so they started doing it back to them because they got fed up with the disrespect of their families' bodies. So it wasn't initiated. It was initiated by the Europeans. And as a retaliation, it then started to be, because they were keeping the scalps as proof, like souvenirs.
Right.
And so when natives started actually doing the scalping, it was like a retaliation. Like you kept doing it to us this whole time, so we're gonna do it back to you. How you like it?
Got it. But that makes sense. Okay. Well, thank you for clarifying that, because I didn't know. That's why I was. Well, that's what's up. But again, like I said, those are things that we need to take into consideration. Also, looking at the timelines and how everything coincides. And at this time, who's in control of what land? What other countries besides the United States are involved? Because that is important. Because you got to realize these Indians are still dealing with other countries outside of the U.S. So,
I want a thought that just popped up.
Go ahead.
When I'm thinking of timelines and time frames, we say scalp, but can scalp just mean hair?
What do you mean?
The long hair. Where were these wigs, getting their wigs and all this other fancy hairs from? I mean, straight up, where was it coming from?
I mean, I never thought of it like that, but yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, like I said, it's just a thought. Haven't seen anything that ties it in. It's just a thought. Because basically a lot of things that we do today always been going on. You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Even now, they get hair from melanated people and wearing their hair. It isn't something that we started. It's something that they did a lot. And over time, we adopted it trying to be more European.
Right. David Corey.
You need it. You don't have thin in here in the first place.
David Corey says, "Stop reading my text."
So off of that thought, you think that they were possibly taking the scalps, the hair of the natives that had their bodies that were there for the hair?
I mean, it's just a thought. Like I said, I haven't read anything that ties it in. Yeah. It's a possibility.
Yeah.
Where was these, not to be funny or nothing, but where was these recessive genes, thin in hair people getting this thick head of hair from?
That's a good point.
The point is 2019, the majority of the hair still coming from descendants of Indians out there in South America.
I mean, when it comes to that, when it comes to scalping, when it comes to cutting the hair and then using or reselling it, I don't see why not. I mean, that makes sense to me. So, yeah. It's very possible. It's very plausible. So, all right. You ready? You ready? No sellout? No sellout.
Yep. Mic check.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Hello.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I'm just making sure. Delay is a delay. When the news of the attack reached Tampa, the men of the city elected militia officers and organized companies. The newly formed militia marched to the Peace River Valley, recruited more men, and manned some forts along the river. Governor James Broome started organizing as many volunteer companies as he could. Because the state had limited funds, he tried to have the army accept the volunteers. Secretary of War Jefferson Davis accepted 2 infantry companies and 3 mounted companies, about 260 men. Governor Broome kept another 400 men mobilized under state control. State troops, both those accepted by the Army and those remaining under state control, had been partly armed and supplied by private donations. General Jesse Carter was appointed by Governor Broome as, quote, special agent without military rank, unquote, to lead the state troops. Carter set half of the state troops to growing crops, and so on, so only 200 of his men were available for patrols. A Tampa newspaper noted that the mounted patrols preferred to patrol in open country, which was easier for the horses, but it allowed Seminoles to see them coming.
Stop. Real quick. It reads, Carter sent half the troops to growing crops. My thing is, and correct me if I'm wrong, because y'all probably know a lot more than I do about this. They plan on being there for a while, so they needed some food, and because their budget was jacked up, it don't sound like the military is going to be sending them any food or any rations, so they had to grow their own food. But my question is, I already know the answer to that question. So you're going to send half the people to grow crops, so that means you had to have half of them to be on patrol to protect the crops, so the Indians wouldn't mess them up or burn them. What are your thoughts on that, Bones, or people in the chat, or people on the panel, or anybody?
Mm-hmm. But remember when they did the towns, what they told them, two miles away from the garrison?
Mm-hmm.
So that means you would need troops stationed at least 3 to 4 miles away from the garrison to make sure the farms around the houses and that was protected.
Okay. That was my thought, because I'm like, you going to send half the troops to grow food, but you got people that got to plant, you got people that's got to guard, and it's got to be a rotation, so you don't have tired men watching. So that makes sense. That was just something that stuck out to me. Alright. You can go ahead, no sell out.
I'm sorry, what you said? What was that?
I said you can go ahead.
Okay. On January 6th, 18... My turn.
No, you good.
Peace to the chat. On January 6, 1856, 2 men gathering Coontie south of Miami River were killed. The settlers in the area promptly fled to Fort Dallas and Key Biscayne. A party of some 20 Seminoles under Oskin Tustin Noogie attacked a woodcutting patrol outside of Fort Denard, killing 5 of the 6 men. Despite the positioning of militia units to defend the area, the Seminoles also raided along the coast south of Tampa Bay. They do what they want.
So what was that?
They do what they want. They know they out there. Like, you know, we gonna raid over here. Oh, we coming. Don't worry. We coming over there too. Just you wait. Despite the positioning of militia units to defend the area, the Seminoles also raided along the coast south of Tampa Bay. They killed 1 man and burned a house in what is now Sarasota. And on March 31st, 1856, they tried to attack the quote-unquote Braden Castle, the plantation home of Dr. Joseph Braden in what is now Bradenton. The castle was too strong for them, but they led away 7 slaves and 3 mules.
Stop. They led away 7 slaves and 3 mules. Did the mules belong to the slaves? Why would you take the mules? Unless you was packing. I don't know.
Are they saying they set free? Like they said, go on, get out of here?
They said they led away, meaning that the mules was behind them. They didn't set them free; they led them away. So that means they took the mule.
Okay.
So that means the 7 slaves followed them, which was probably no more than Indians that older dead. And the mules, I will make the assumption. Alright, Frida, I got you.
No,
So
I look at it both ways now. When they throw that word slave in there, I look at it as Indian or European indentured servant. Because it's kind of funny they're not talking about these indentured servants in here.
yeah. I mean, you're right. You're right.
Because think about it, there's a whole lot of indentured servants that's supposed to be working on these plantations and farms. It's kind of funny, like when we read into these stories, why they not speaking about them?
That's a good question.
Or could it be because if you was melanated, if you was a melanated indentured servant, they changed the rules and you had to work for 99 years.
You also got to look at it too, like which goes on with what you're saying that this is 1856. They've already put their plan together as far as what was going to happen in 1860, as far as getting a good and accurate account of everybody who owned anything, whether it was business, property, or what have you, so they can put it on the census and they'll know exactly what to confiscate during the Confiscation Act of 1861. So they already know what they're doing. And they have an ideology of who they're going to attack. So just found that interesting. So I want to look at the Bradenton Fort right quick, because I got a feeling the Natchez built this. Why does it give me Bradenton? Hold on. Exception original. They're about Fort Light. It says that the city took the name of Dr. Joseph Braden, whose nearby Fort Light house was a refuge for early settlers during Seminole Indian attacks. The current city of Bradenton was formed in 1943 when the Florida legislature merged in the cities of Manatee, incorporated in 1888, and Bradentown. Geography and climate. I'm trying to see how long. Notice they don't say he built that fort. So I'm trying to see when the fort was built. Right now, just going through the demographics. Talks about the economy. Yeah, they're not going to talk about their fort. That's interesting. Very interesting. They tell you that there was a fort, but they don't tell you who built the fort. Okay.
You know, normally when they don't want to tell you who, it's you.
Yeah. Unknown origin. Yeah. Let's see. What did you stop at? No sell out?
That last word, that's it.
Really? The last word you said was said, and that's not up here. So what would you stop at?
Mules.
Oh,
yeah, you
mules.
was right too, because the next thing, yeah, murals.
Mules.
Burrows, man, burrows.
Go ahead, read.
So the castle was too strong for them, but they led away 7 slaves and 3 mules. Burdened with prisoners and loot, the Seminoles did not move fast. While they were stopped at Big Charlie Apopka Creek eating barbecued beef from a cow they had found and slaughtered. The
Stop.
militia caught up with them.
Stop. Wait a minute.
I don't know it's barbecue.
Yeah. So they just gonna have a queue right there. Bank was they on the bank? Like I mean, I could, bro. Who was smiling? Everybody was. Slaves smiling. Like, come on, man. You just gonna have a barbecue like right here in the middle of. Look, I told you they didn't care. They did not care. How they don't care so much?
Come on, man. Barbecue. Who known for barbecuing? Let's stop playing. Let's stop playing. Who known for barbecuing? Let's pull up in the park and barbecue anywhere, right?
That was us.
I mean, but think about it. Eating barbecued beef from a cow they found and slaughtered. I don't know.
Oakland said we've been on that grill. Yo, no way did they. This is not real.
Come on, man. I mean, you taking shots on the slide. You taking shots on the slide, eating barbecue beef from a cow they had slaughtered. Who does that? Who writes that?
I almost said the word sauce out loud, and I didn't mean to see that at all.
Listen, you didn't hear what the first thing I said. How do you know it's barbecue? How?
Cause the next sentence reads, the militia caught up with them because they was they was burdened with mules and it was barbecue.
So who examined the salt? Who examined the salt? Was it dry rub or wet? I'm just saying. I'm saying.
I know, right? Like somebody tell me it was like.
Come on, man. You know it's dry rub. They ain't want near no creek, so they couldn't wet it. Anyway, go ahead. Go ahead.
That good brisket. Oh man, y'all are terrible. Oh man, y'all are the worst people I know. All right, so I don't even know where I was at. I'm not trying to read that part again. Yeah, I'm gonna read it again. While they were stopped at Big Charlie Apopka Creek, eating barbecued beef from a cow they had found and slaughtered, the militia caught up with them. The militiamen killed 2 of the Seminoles and recaptured the slaves and mules taken from.
Hold on, I'm sorry.
Planting.
I'm sorry, no, Sella. I'm sorry. When the hell has there? Oh, excuse my language. I'm so sorry. When has there ever been a wild cow? I just feel like I just been insulted.
I know, right?
I'm so sorry for the language. I just feel like my intelligence was insulted. We got wild cows?
Yeah.
Anybody?
I was imagining it when I was.
I've never seen a wild cow wandering in the woods. Never. Never.
Abandoning cows. Abandoning cows.
Oakland said that was. Oakland said they was Memphis style rib, so that was dry rub right there, buddy. That's that dry rub.
Yeah.
But I mean, come on. I mean, you can't make this up. Well, apparently you can, because this is what it sounded like they did.
Yeah. Think about it. Cows, those are herded animals.
Feral dogs, feral cats. I ain't seen no feral cows.
Ain't no such thing as a wild cow.
That's a domesticated animal.
Man manipulated all the way.
Come on. They could have just said ox or boar or something.
David Corey says, these nagas say we got caught because we were eating. Sound like a break at work.
What they trying to say? This that kryptonite. They learned about that itis. Oh, feed them, and it's over.
Yeah, they put the cow there. That's what it was set up. It was like Jurassic Park. They had the cow sitting there on a post, waiting for them. Oh, we found a cow.
Barbecue.
Anyway,
cut the music on.
Go ahead, Reed. Go ahead, Reed.
Oh man, the militiamen killed 2 of the Seminoles and recaptured the slaves and mules taken from Dr. Braden's plantation. The scalp of one of the dead Seminoles was displayed in Tampa, the other in Manatee. During April, regular Army and militiamen patrolled around and into the reservation but made little contact with the Seminoles. One 6-hour battle was fought near Bowlegs town in April, with 4 regulars killed and 3 wounded before the Seminoles withdrew.
Stop for a second. Y'all notice that now that they're winning, all of a sudden their record keeping is getting a lot better. Because yesterday they couldn't tell you how many died, they couldn't tell you how many were injured, they couldn't tell you nothing. But now all of a sudden they can tell you exactly how many people getting killed, who scalped who, what they was eating, what type of animal they was eating. I mean, their record keeper just all of a sudden got a whole lot better. I don't know, maybe it's just me.
No, they lost the pen and then they found the pen. It's a real easy explanation. You can't write if you ain't got a pen, so it's all right. They're writing now.
Well, you can't write if you're too busy running because somebody busting something at your head from out the woods.
Try to write and run. Somebody try it out. Record it for me.
Like, you know what? No, we just gonna call this North Florida and that's South Florida.
You know what I'm saying? During, I'm gonna start reading again. Mic check. Mic check.
1, 2.
The Seminoles. Is that what I'm at? Yeah. The Seminoles continued to carry out small raids around the state. On May 14, 1856, 15 Seminoles attacked the farmhouse of Captain Robert Bradley, north of Tampa, killing 2 of his young children. One Seminole was killed by Bradley. Bradley may have been targeted because he had killed Tiger Tails' brother during the Second Seminole War. What? Is that not a coincidence? On May 17, Seminoles attacked a wagon train in Central Florida, killing 3 men. Mail and stagecoach service in and out of Tampa was suspended until the military could provide protection. On June 14, 1856, Seminoles attacked a farm 2 miles from Fort Meade. All of the household made it safely into the house, and they were able to hold the Seminoles at bay. The gunfire was heard at Fort Meade, and 7 mounted militiamen responded. 3 of the militiamen were killed, and 2 others wounded. More militiamen pursued the Seminoles, but had to retreat when a sudden rain wet their powder. Oh, man.
Stop. Wait, stop.
This is all bad when they try to show up and be. Just don't do it.
Hold on. So let me get this right. You got to think about this. At this time, you had to light the gun, right? Which goes to show you that they won't get enough their shots as fast as they were. So when it rains, your gun don't work. Because your powder wet.
I'll be back. I'll be back.
Wait. Your powder don't work because it's wet.
If you riding all the way over there for 2 miles, don't you see the storm clouds? Like, somewhere.
No, it don't dawn on you because of the adrenaline that's flowing. So you like, oh yeah, I got it. But all of a sudden you go to light it and the powder wet. Trav says that sounds like BS. It does. It sounds like a made up story. Barbecues and wet powder. You know,
trying to use to shoot the guns.
Hold on. You know what somebody needs to do? Somebody needs to go in the Everglades and see if one of them guns will actually work in that environment, because it's very moist over there. The humidity is high. What effect would humidity play on gunpowder? Does anybody know? I mean, we joke, but would that affect it?
That's something to think about.
Because my thing is, if that's the case, oh yeah, every time it rains, you better hide, because I'm coming for you.
Because you see, during the summer, they got out of Dodge during the summer. There was no thing about it. They was not going into South Florida during the summertime. But they called it sickly summer.
Mm-hmm. Oak Cliff says, wild cows, wet powder, and wigs.
I got a question real quick.
Go ahead. What you got?
Okay, what's being read right now is the 1860s, right?
It's actually 1856. We haven't got the 1860 yet.
Okay, I'm reading about wars with the same names, similar situations, but just more in detailed, and it's in the late 1700s.
Really?
Yeah, from that same book.
And what's the title of the book?
The Forgotten History of America.
I wonder why it's forgotten. Could it be an overlaid story of the same war?
Yeah, because in reality, think about it. This is the same war the moment they came on the shores. The wars never stop. These are just battles in the same continuing war.
Yeah.
Think about it.
Sorry.
There's only one war. Battles have names, not the war. These are just battles within this one major war that's continually going on to this day.
Trabab says he could test it out. He says I live literally on the Everglades. I can test that for you if you need me to. Yes, Trab, because that would explain some things.
Yeah, this is starting at 1763, and it's calling it the British fighting in the French-Indian War.
Yeah, it's a continuation of all these wars. Because we know the French-Indian War really is the 7-year war.
Mm-hmm.
It's playing out on this soil, where the British are allied with Indians and the French are allied with Indians.
Something to think about. Yeah, but Trabab, when you get a chance, check out that humidity on gunpowder. Because I'm starting to think that there was no way you was gonna be chasing Indians through the swamp with a gun with powder. Because where was the powder? The powder was on your hip, right? What happens when that powder get wet? You can't use it. See, we can't just be thinking about rain. We have to be thinking about the conditions. You're going through the swamps. Your gun is not effective once that powder get wet.
That's probably why. And if you think about it, that's probably why they drew the line and could never stand a chance fighting down in there. Think about it. If you know anything about South Florida, the wintertime, the humidity's still high.
And there was no plastic back then to keep the powder and to keep it dry. So you got to think about that as well, too. So, I mean, I don't know. This story sounds more and more made up as we go. So, where we at? Talking about the powder got wet. I don't know why that tickles me. You can't do nothing with no wet powder. Okay, where we at?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, go ahead.
On June 16, 20 militiamen from Fort Fraser surprised a group of Seminoles along the Peace River, killing some of the Seminoles. The militiamen withdrew after losing 2 dead and 3 wounded. They claimed to have killed as many as 20 Seminoles, but the Indians admitted to only 4 dead and 2 wounded.
Embellishing, making up stuff, moosing. Go ahead.
However, one of the dead was Oksin Tustenugi, or Tustenugi, who seems to have been the only chief who would actively lead attacks against settlements. The citizens of,
Now go ahead. You good?
The citizens of Florida were becoming disenchanted with the militia. There were complaints that the militiamen would pretend to patrol for a day or two and then go home to work their fields, and that they were given to idleness, drunkenness, and thievery. The officers were reported to be unwilling to submit required paperwork. Most importantly, the militia had failed to prevent attacks against the settlers.
Sound like somebody was just collecting a check.
I'm not about to say this is out there. I'm ready to go home and work on my
I'm
life.
going back to the field. Forget this. I got wet powder. I can't catch these Indians.
Hold on.
Hold on. Go ahead.
Why would they have to be going back to the fields if you got slaves in the field?
Ooh, say it again.
Why would they be going back to work in the fields if you got slaves working in the fields?
I know, because you was a master and an overseer. You didn't want them to run away, and they would only run away at night. They wouldn't run away during the day while you was chasing Indians. Yay, 2 points for me.
I got an even better answer.
What the answer is?
Africa.
What about Africa?
I don't know. That's I get 3 points for that, right?
You said I said that's the trend. When all else fails, Africa or DNA test.
That's that sprinkle some crack on it. It's Africa. That's the answer. It's Africa. Straight up.
Well, why my grandma got records here? Africa. Hey, what?
Yeah, that's the answer. Next question. Hold on, where am I at? Dagnabbit. Yeah, okay, new strategy is where we at. Alright. So what you got? Where we going? What we doing? Come on, let's go. Let's get it.
New strategy.
Mm-hmm.
In September 1856, Brigadier General William S. Harney returned to Florida as commander of the federal troops. Remembering the lessons he had learned in the Second Seminole War, he set up a system of forts in a line across Florida, and patrols moved deep into Seminole territory. See? Africans building forts. He planned to confine the Seminoles to the Big Cypress Swamp and the Everglades because he believed they would be unable to live there during the wet season. He anticipated being able to catch the Indians when they left their flooded sanctuary seeking dry land for raising their crops. Part of Harney's plan involved using boats to reach islands and other dry spots in the swamps. He first made one more attempt to negotiate with the Seminoles, but was unable to make contact with them. In early January 1857, he ordered his troops to actively pursue the Indians. Harney's plan, however, had shown few results by the time he and the 5th Infantry were transferred to Kansas to aid in the uprisings there in April.
Stop. You know why it didn't work? Because that powder kept getting wet. Think about it.
Mm-hmm.
You
The
can't.
wet season.
Right. You wasn't Hold on. How you learn your lesson from the last? See again, this stuff's not adding up. If you learned your lesson from the last war, you wouldn't go in there with guns. You would go in there with cannons. You would shoot from long range, right?
The problem is Florida at this time is a swamp.
Oh yeah, you can't. You don't have no. Where you gonna put the
where
cannon?
would they push that cannon to?
Put it on the boat.
It's a swamp.
Put it on the boat. Put on a canoe.
On the boat.
Put on a canoe. I got a canoe with a cannon.
But you know what it also ties in and shows?
What's that?
That the ancestors knew about the seasons. That the ancestors relocated with the seasons to keep producing their agriculture and their way of life. So what was they playing? Catch them during the rainy season when they relocate to drier land. But like they wasn't thinking, if you go in there during the rainy season, it's raining. How you busting a shot off?
Arrows don't need no gunpowder. I'm just saying. Alright. This just sounds like a fairy tale. Go ahead. No sell out.
Alright, my check. You want to mute?
You good?
Oh, my check. Okay. I still had to go to the screen. Thanks a lot. Colonel Gustavus Loomis replaced General Harney as commander in Florida, but the withdrawal of the 5th Infantry left him with only 10 companies of the 4th Artillery, which was later reduced to just 4 companies. Loomis organized volunteers into boat companies, which were given metal, quote-unquote, alligator boats that had been built earlier specifically for use in the Big Cypress Swamp and Everglades. 30 feet long, pointed at both ends, and drawing 2 to 3 feet of water, the boats could carry up to 16 men into the swamps. These boat companies were able to capture many Indians, primarily women and children. The regulars did not do as well. Some officers, including Captain Abner Doubleday, observed that the Seminoles easily avoided the Army patrols. Doubleday attributed this to the fact that most of the enlisted men were recent immigrants who had no skills in woodcraft.
Stop. So they're getting some of these 17 million immigrants that's coming here to fight that don't know anything about fighting and don't know anything about fighting over here. So that should tell you that the military at this time was broke. Broke. So, something to think about.
But if the immigrants didn't have skills in woodcraft, if they were supposedly looking at them as enemies, wouldn't they at least point them out to somebody who was skilled in woodcraft?
Yeah, but when you got time, again, you got to think about it. When you gonna have time to teach them? Because that's a trade. Somebody's got to teach you how to do that.
No. I'm just saying, wouldn't they, if they're not skilled in woodcraft, you see somebody you don't like, you're gonna point them out, right?
Yeah.
No, it goes back to tie in something from yesterday. Remember, the United States was buying their boats. It answers the question who they were buying the boats from.
They were buying their boats from the northern Indians that have been siding with them. That was also part of the militia that was fighting with them, helping them find the Indians. Because only an Indian can find the Indian. The Eastern weren't the only ones that had boats. You had the Catawba Sapani of the North who had been allied with the French that had boats too. So they knew about these waters. So they also had boats.
Okay, so, but Indians were still walking past immigrants, and immigrants weren't saying anything. You know what I mean? Like,
well, you gotta look at it. These immigrants, again, if we trust what we're reading, these immigrants and some of these soldiers, they didn't care. They just wanted a paycheck and they just wanted to farm. They didn't really care about the war. This wasn't their war.
Right.
That's the way I look at it. I mean, I could be wrong, but at the end of the day, it's like, they ain't bothering me, I ain't bothering them.
Yeah, they were just trying to pay off a debt. Remember, they keep saying immigrants, but remember, these immigrants are indentured servants. They didn't come here freely. These are indentured servants coming over here by the millions.
Again, there's different versions and there's different viewpoints and there's different perspectives. So at the end of the day, anything could be possible. We just got to get different variations and different perspectives of this war. That's the reason why talking to tribes, talking to the Seminoles chiefs, talking to the tribes that were there, so they can give you a different perspective. Because this is just Wikipedia's perspective. So that's just one of many perspectives. And what you're saying, Gabby, may have a lot of validity. So, but until there's something that can point to that, we can only speculate. Just like we can only basically speculate with this, because we don't have at least another version to verify it, if that makes sense. So, let's sell out. You ready?
Mm-hmm. Yes. In 1857, 10 companies of Florida militia were taken into federal service, totaling almost 800 men by September. In November, these troops captured 18 women and children from Billy Bowlegs' band. What them troops in the 18 people? The troops also found and destroyed several towns and fields of crops. The troops moved into the Big Cypress Swamp starting on New Year's Day, 1858, again destroying the towns and cultivated fields they found. Another delegation from the Indian Territory arrived in Florida in January and attempted to contact Bowlegs. The troops stood down while the attempt was made and Bowlegs was contacted. The previous year, the Seminoles had finally been given their own reservation in Indian Territory separate from the Creeks. Cash payments of $500 to each warrior, more to the chiefs, and $100 to each woman were promised. On March 15, Bowlegs' and Ansonwar's bands accepted the offer and agreed to go west. On May 4, a total of 163 Seminoles, including some captured earlier, were shipped to New Orleans. On May 8, 1858, Colonel Loomis declared the war to be over.
Stop. You go from being a military that's quote unquote whipping the Creek's butt and forcing them out and then sending them places with nothing, to coming to Florida and paying and begging Indians to come on a reservation. There's a stark contrast to what's happening. Think about it. The last three incidents that we've read about, they are paying Indians to go to a reservation. They didn't pay the Indians to go to a reservation when it was in Georgia. They gave them choices, but they ain't pay them. They're actually bribing these Indians because they can't whoop them. Or am I missing something?
Seems about right to me.
And now you're just putting yourself and the country more in debt because you can't really afford to keep paying all these Indians. That's why you left the Indians down south. You left them in the Everglades because you knew that you couldn't do nothing with them. You was going to lose more money and more men than it was worth to try to move them. So. You good to read the next paragraph? What's up?
Yep.
Alright, ready when you ready.
Aftermath. When Colonel Loomis declared an end to to the Third Seminole War, the government believed that only about 100 Seminole were left in Florida, though there were probably more. In December 1858, the U.S. recruited 2 bands totaling 75 people who agreed to removal to the west. They were shipped out on February 15, 1859. Seminoles remained in Florida, however. Sam Jones's band was living in southeast Florida, inland from Miami and Fort Lauderdale. Chipco's band was living north of Lake Okeechobee, although the Army and militia had failed to locate it. And small bands consisting of a family or 2 were scattered across the wetlands of southern Florida. Since the war was officially over and the remaining Seminole carefully avoided contact with settlers, the government sent the militia home and reassigned most of the regular army troops, leaving only small contingents in larger coastal forts such as Fort Brooke. Most of the smaller forts scattered across the Florida wilderness were decommissioned and soon stripped by settlers of any usable material. During the American Civil War, the Confederate government of Florida contacted Sam Jones with promises of aid to keep the Seminole from fighting on the side of the Union. The state did not follow through on its promises, but the Seminole were not interested in fighting another war and remained neutral. The 1868 Florida Constitution, developed by the Reconstruction Legislature, gave the Seminole 1 seat in the House and 1 seat in the Senate of the state legislature. The Seminole never filled the positions. In 1885, the legislature passed a new constitution removing the seats for Seminoles and established barriers to voter registration and electoral practices to essentially disenfranchise most blacks and minorities, including Native Americans. Why are they talking about blacks all the time?
Because remember, they became citizens.
Yeah, no, I was just saying,
Yeah, because it's 1868. What happened in 1868? Oh, basically what happened in 1863.
1860, yeah.
Oh, 65, excuse me. That's emancipation, remember? So now they're not Indians, they're black.
They've been talking about Seminoles this whole time, and they call them black then.
Mm-hmm.
This situation lasted until the passage of federal civil rights voting legislation in the mid-1960s, which provided for the enforcement of citizens' constitutional rights and the adoption of Florida's current state constitution in 1968. Indians out of Florida, no matter what, unless they can't find them. Then they just give up.
They just reclassified them.
That's all they did. So at the end of the day, they couldn't get rid of them, so they, like you said, they declassified them. They reclassified them.
Because you see, right around the top of Reconstruction and everything, they removed the 2 seats from the Indians and the Florida. Wow.
Charles Clark said blacks are pale by definition at the time.
But hold on. Question. What blacks are in Florida at this time?
It would have to be the Germans and the Irish. Because they
what so-called black would be down there?
I don't understand the question.
They saying how they say it disfranchised the blacks.
Mm-hmm.
And like how we pointed out, this whole time they didn't speak about no blacks. Now all of a sudden, it's disfranchising blacks. Where did they magically get this black population from?
Well, it could also be the the source itself. We got to figure out when the source was written about this information.
And also, too, you got to look at the time frame. This is 1868. This is after the Civil War. This is after the Emancipation Proclamation, so everybody became a citizen. This is after the Confiscation Act.
Yeah, so what was on the census at this time then?
Blacks were still on the census. Remember, blacks was put on the census in 1860.
That's what I'm saying. So this is post 1868, so they can use the term black. I guess.
So we can look at it as them being reclassified because they became citizens.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't mention Seminoles here. They mentioned blacks, minorities, and including Native Americans.
Right. And what was it? What was the bill that was passed that made all Indians, Native Americans bones?
That's not till 1924.
Okay.
See, Native Americans, that's what I'm saying. The trick is how they writing it. Native American do not mean Indian at this time. Native American just means a U.S. citizen at this time.
Gotcha.
It's 1868, right?
Yeah, 1868 Florida Constitution, or 1885.
Yeah. So at this time, black is an Indian. Because Native American, the definition for Native American at this time in history is any person born in America. It don't take the other definition until 1924. How we use today, it don't become that until 1924. Yeah, it's just the word, and I don't know, lately when I look at stuff, the words start to stick out to me on what they really mean.
Yeah. Somebody got lost trying to click that reference, but where we at? Oh, we're during the American Civil War.
Yeah, modern times, the next section.
Oh, I read all that already. Did I read all this? Nope, I didn't finish. Oh, let me finish.
You did finish.
This situation, no, I didn't. It's the last sentence. Right? I stopped at Native Americans? I thought I did.
Nope.
All right, modern times. A small number of Seminoles continued to live in relative isolation in the Lake Okeechobee and Everglades region into the 20th century. Flood control and drainage projects beginning in the late 1800s opened up more land for development and significantly altered the natural environment, inundating some areas while leaving former swamps dry and arable. These projects, along with the completion of the Tamiami Trail. Tamiami. I like that one better. These projects, along with the completion of the Tamiami Trail, which bisected the Everglades in 1928, simultaneously ended old ways of life and introduced new opportunities. A steady stream of white developers and tourists came to the area, and the Seminoles began to work in local farms, ranches, and souvenir stands.
All right, keep going, and I'm gonna address what everybody's talking about in the chat as far as black, because I think they forgot the enumeration details of 1860. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I must have forgot. In the 1940s, Seminoles living across the state began moving to reservations and establishing official tribal governments to form ties with the Bureau of Indian Affairs. In 1957, most Seminoles established formal relations with the U.S. government as the Seminole Tribe of Florida, which is headquartered in Hollywood, Florida, and controlled the Big Cypress Indian Reservation, Brighton Reservation, Fort Pierce Reservation, Hollywood Reservation, Immokalee Reservation, and Tampa Reservation.
It's a lot of reservations, aren't there? So my question is, I would dare say that there are a lot of melanated Indians on those reservations. Why ain't nobody doing interviews with those? Why is it that you see these YouTube personalities doing interviews with the Mestizo or the Matisse Indians and not going out talking to these melanated Indians? But that's another story for that's another conversation for another day.
Someone finish the last paragraph.
Yeah, go ahead.
Last paragraph. The Miccosukee branch of the Seminoles held to a more traditional lifestyle in the Everglades region, simultaneously seeking privacy and serving as a tourist attraction, wrestling alligators, selling crafts, and giving eco-tours of their land. They received federal recognition as a separate nation in 1962 and received their own reservation lands, collectively known as the Miccosukee Indian Reservation, including a 333-acre reservation on the northern border of Everglades National Park, about 45 miles west of Miami.
So, y'all have to remember, when we looked at the instructions for the enumerators yesterday, that they were instructed, they being the enumerators, who were marshals at the time, that anybody that had melanated skin were to be labeled as black. That's what the United States went off of as far as definition and how labeling people. They did not use a definition that was in a dictionary. They was telling the enumerators to call our ancestors black. Go back and look at the instructions for the enumerators in 1860. That's where that term comes from. Because remember, we spoke about that. Because this is 1868, 8 years after the census. So that's 8 years of them being listed as black. That's why it's important to keep track of everything that's going on from the standpoint of not only what countries are involved with the Native Americans or American Indians at this time, the timelines of other wars and other things that's going on at this time, and the census and how they define things at this time.
Yeah, you got to remember, on the census, black was used to identify us on the census since 1850. See, these terms, like, if you look at black in the dictionary on how it's used in criminal law, how it's used every day, but then you have to look at how it's being used on the census. The definition changes on how it's being applied. That's why one word has multiple definitions.
Right.
The key is to find out the application of the word, so now you know what definition to apply on how it's being used, if that makes more sense.
Yeah, because the English language is one of the few languages that has many definitions for one word, whereas most languages only have one meaning for one word. So hopefully that helps, and hopefully
by the time you got to the 80s and stuff, yes, black was a fight word, but we talking about 1850 when somebody else did the census for you.
Right.
You didn't self-identify until 1970. So from 1850 to 1970, you were listed as black.
You got to remember, we weren't naming ourselves then. So we were given these names by enumerators, aka marshals, that lived in the area and knew what was going on and knew what the agenda was. We have to keep this in mind. And again, you mix this with the alcoholism and everything else that's going on. These are things we have to take in consideration of how they were able to get away with this stuff. So, alright, so now the next thing we can move on to, so we saw how they end up basically moving the companies in and basically having the tribes or the Indians go into the workforce. And there are sources here and notes and citations.
So again, why would you need a bunch of slaves in Florida if they're telling you that the Indians were working the farms?
Makes sense to me. I mean, there was no reason for that. Hold on, let me set up the slides for the next build. Give me a second. Again, we gotta take all this stuff in consideration. It's not just one thing that we're looking at. We're looking at everything.
And it also would show you how Negro and Black became interchangeable. It depends on in what definition you're using them in. Negro was your legal classification on how you was identified in society. When it came to area, resources, it was Black at the time. Think about it. Our classification was Black until, 2000? When it became African American?
Yep.
Yeah, because 1920, if I remember correctly, they took it off 1920. This is on the census side. They took it off 1920, and I think it went back to Negro. Then it went back Black. Then it went back, no, Negro. What was it? Black, Afro-American, then African-American. But it could be reversed on the Black and Afro-American. I got to look back at the line.
Again, that's why it's important to be looking at the instructions for the census takers or the enumerators, because that gives you a better picture of what was being done to our ancestors and how they were defining them according to the federal government. Give me a second, I'm still getting the slides right, so.
And yeah, you had Negro, mulatto, and Black on the census at the same time. Ever more evidence that they're creating classes. It's more proof that they're dividing people up on skin color to create multiple classes. Don't they say in so-called Black America, you have a poor class, a middle class, and a wealthy class in Black America? Don't it tend to look like, by design, when you look on TV, why does it kind of look color-coded? Like the lighter you walk, when you float to the top in this 3-caste system that we were put in.
I got something.
Go ahead.
I Googled how many Native Americans are left, and it says there are over 5 million Native Americans in the United States, 78% of whom live outside the reservations. So then I Googled when did the Cherokee tribe end? It pulled up Cherokee removal, part of the Trail of Tears, refers to the forced relocation between 1836 and 1839. That's when the Cherokee tribe ended. That's what it's saying. This is just Wikipedia. I'm not saying that. So then, what is this? What percentage of the U.S. is white? Not including white Hispanics, 72% of the population since the 2010 United States Census makes up of the non-white population.
Say that again.
72% of the population since the 2010 United States Census makes up of the non-white population.
So they saying the white population.
What they saying?
Also not including white Hispanics.
So they're basically saying only 30% of the population is white.
And non-Hispanic whites make a total of 60.7% of the U.S. population since the 2010 United States Census.
So non-Hispanic whites make up 62%?
60.7%.
60.7%.
So non-whites make up 72% of the population and 67.7% non-Hispanic whites. Wait, non-Hispanic whites. What? Okay, I'm reading exactly how it says it here.
Non-Hispanic whites are whites that are not Hispanic, so they're considered to be white, or they're considered to be North African. Because that's what it sounds like.
Okay.
But the way they term it is to confuse you. So think about this. If you remove non-Hispanic, what you got? You got white. That's a white that's not Hispanic.
No.
Yeah.
Because what does non mean?
Non-Hispanic whites.
No, what I'm saying, no, in the word itself, remove non-Hispanic out of non-Hispanic whites, because non means not.
Okay.
So that means they're white. They're being as white that's not Hispanic. So they're basically saying they're white. Instead of saying white, they just say not Hispanic whites.
But remember, non-white.
What's a Hispanic?
Right, but remember, it also said 72% of the population is non-white.
Right.
But that's not including the non-white Hispanics. They've separated non-white and non-Hispanic whites.
Oh, I'm not disagreeing with you. What I'm telling you is they're trying to confuse people. Because why would you put non-white?
Right.
Because the question you put in there was how many white people are in the United States, right?
Okay. This says white Americans, including white Hispanics, constitute the historical and current majority.
We know that's not true.
Right, but in the same, it says non-whites make up 72% of the population, but that's not including Hispanics or non-Hispanic whites or whites.
So the question is which.
Listen,
go ahead, Bones.
It's telling you who the majority is without telling you who the majority is.
Right.
If 72% of the majority of the population is non-white, what is that telling you?
We are here.
Exactly. They're telling you. The thing is, you have to realize how they reclassify you. In our case, most of us today are reclassified as urban Indians. See, when you're dealing with these census and this data of population, you have to realize the definition of these words and these classifications. And they have particular classifications for people. Once you know your classification, then you realize, because it's telling you right now, non-whites.
right, so do I need to pull up Urban Indians right quick, Bones?
You can. I can post it in the chat.
Yes, do that before we do that before we go ahead with the Texas Indian War.
All right, I posted it.
Give me a second while I
hard hats on, boots, full gear for this one. I don't know how many people, suit up, just suit up.
the world. All right.
Okay. So I Googled urban Indian. And today, 78% of Native Americans live off reservations and 72% live in urban or suburban environments.
You.
What are they talking about?
There's the non-whites.
Talking about you.
Who, me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you, that's who, you, that's who.
Couldn't be me.
So, I'll go ahead and read this.
Yeah, it's gonna get deep.
It says urban Indians are Native Americans in the United States and the Canadian First Nations peoples who live in urban areas. Urban Indians represent a growing portion of the native population in the United States. The National Urban Indian Family Coalition considers the term to apply to individuals of American Indian and Alaska Native ancestry who may or may not have direct or active ties with a particular tribe, but who identify with and are at least somewhat active in a Native community in their urban area. As defined by the NUIFC, urban Indians have various permanent residents, including long-term residents, forced residents, and medium or short-term visitors. Long-term residents are those who have been in a city or multiple generations. Some are descendants of the people who traditionally own land that has been developed as an urban center. Forced residents are those who were forced to relocate to urban centers by government policy or by the need to access specialized health or other services. The Urban Removal Act. Remember that? The urban, what is it called? Urban Renewal Act? Urban Renewal Act?
Yep.
Urban Renewal Act? Urban Renewal Act. Okay. Medium and short-term residents are in the city or visits family or friends to pursue an education, etc. The term forced residence is a contested term. Brief history of the urbanization of Native Americans. The number of American Indians living in the urban settings accelerated in the 50s and 60s because of the Indian Territory policy of the area, which encouraged Native people to leave their reservations. During that period, the Bureau of Indian Affairs also developed a relocation program that encouraged American Indians to move to urban areas. While Native people were not forced to move, the BIA was being criticized for promoting unduly optimistic portrayals of life in urban areas. Many Native people were simply unprepared for the challenges of city life. They often encountered discrimination, had difficulty getting jobs and housing, and many returned to their reservations. The program was abolished in the 1970s Since that era, however, many American Indians have moved to urban areas by their own choice and without any assistance from the BIA. The 2000 census indicate that.
I got a question. Hey, Bones, before you say something.
You know why it stopped in 1970? Because you had PIH in 1968.
Bones, come on, man. I was being polite by not saying nothing and cutting them off. You jumping over it. I wanted to say that.
All right, hold on.
It was called.
You got it.
It's called Housing and Urban Development now. It was previously called. What was it called? Public
Indian Housing Codes.
Yeah. So I mean, they're still talking about the same code.
Yeah, what are they talking about?
When was that? What year was that established?
1968.
Okay, so is that tied to the 1952 Urban Relocation Program?
Do what?
That was supposed to fix it because excuse me. We were locked out of the system of home ownership and businesses.
And being redlined.
Redlined out of particular areas. The PIH code was a program that was designed so we could be able to live in areas that if we didn't have a personal cost forward, that certain resources were given to you so you can have a basic living in this country. This is what Martin Luther King marched for. This is that part of his life that they don't want to talk about. They'll keep showing you the I Have a Dream speech, but they won't let you know about this.
Y'all want me to finish reading?
Well, definitely.
Yes.
Where was that? That was on the road, like butter. Okay, it says many Native people were simply unprepared for the challenges of city life, and they often encountered discrimination and had difficulty getting jobs and housing, and many returned to their reservations. The program was abolished in the 1970s. Since that era, however, many American Indians have moved to urban areas by their own choice. And also, too, what else happened in 1970? What else happened in 1970? There was no more enumerators. You had the opportunity to do what? Self-identify. So what did they have you self-identifying as?
Say it loud.
Huh?
I'm black and I'm proud.
Okay.
They say it loud. Mm-hmm.
So not only do they abolish the program in the 70s, they abolished the program in the 70s because they knew that many people were no longer going to identify as Indian. They knew people were going to identify as black.
Yep. Programmed it to say it loud.
Yeah. So since that era, however, many American Indians have moved to urban areas by their own choice and without any assistance from the BIA. The 2000 census indicated that 67% of Native Americans live in urban areas, and by the 2010 census, the percentage of the urban Native people have grown to 71%. Now, let me ask you a question. Based off of what your definition of what the average person definition of Native American is, how many of us live next to what you think or what we thought or what we were taught a Native American is? I'll wait.
Because that's not the definition of a Native American.
Hey, come on, man. I'm doing all this extra stuff.
I lived in an urban area.
Remember, the term American talks about who? The descendants of Europeans. Native Americans talk about people who were born here, meaning we were once classified as American Indian, and in 1924, they relabeled us as Native American.
Say it one more time.
Native Americans. Native Americans. Look up again and read through the Snyder Act. In 1924, our legal status before was American Indian, and they changed it to Native American. That is your status. You are a urban Indian.
They think we ignorant because we live down here.
No, Paul.
And y'all know what the Snyder Act is also called? It's also called the Indian Citizenship Act.
Woo.
What? The hootie whattin'? Say that one more time.
Hold on, I'm putting it in the chat and I'm gonna pull it up. Proof is not a problem over here, partner.
You ain't got no sources.
That's all we got.
Oh man. Is that how we do? I be hoping one day.
Nothing like that barbecue sauce, but we got sauces.
The Indian Citizenship Act of 1924, also known as the Snyder Act, was proposed by Representative Homer P. Snyder of New York, and granted full U.S. citizenship to indigenous peoples of the United States called Indians. In this act, while the 14th Amendment of the United States Constitution defined as citizens any persons born in the U.S. and are subject to this jurisdiction, the amendment had been, hold on, y'all got me doing everything over here. We got James Doodoo Brown in the building. What it do, bro?
Something like it's hot.
Yeah, you can interrupt me anytime you want to, Doodoo. It says, Amendment of the United States Constitution defines as citizens any person born in the U.S. and subject to the jurisdiction. The amendment had been interpreted to not apply to Native people. The act was signed into law by President Calvin Coolidge in June 2nd, 1924. It was enacted partially in recognition of the thousands of Native Americans who served in the armed forces during the First World War. So it says, being enacted by the Senate and House of Representatives of the United States of America, Congress assembled that all non-citizen Indians born within the territorial limits of the United States be and they are hereby declared to be citizens of the United States, provided that the granting of such citizenship shall not in any manner impair or otherwise affect the right of any Indian to tribal or other property. So it was approved June 2nd, 1924. Y'all want me to go and keep on reading?
Oh, we can. If
Okay.
they need more.
I like this kind of party.
So it goes on to read that the Article of 1 of the United States Constitution, Indians not taxed were not counted in assessing the population of the state for purposes appointed. Some Native people could be citizens. The Dred Scott decision acknowledged that, but linked it to naturalization. So why would they talk about the Dred Scott decision if they
have
have
something to do with Indians? Why would Dred Scott case be attached to Indians?
Because, hey, Africa, all right? I ain't gonna say it again.
So then it goes on to read that they, the Indians, may without doubt, like the subjects of any foreign government, be naturalized by the authority of Congress and become citizens of a state in the United States. And if an individual should leave his nation or tribe and take up his abode among the white population, he will be entitled to all the rights and the privileges would belong to any immigrant from any other foreign people. In 1868, under the 14th Amendment, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to its jurisdiction thereof were declared citizens. However, the jurisdiction requirement was interpreted to exclude most Native Americans. And in 1870, the Senate Judiciary Committee further clarified the matter. The 14th Amendment to the Constitution has no effect whatever upon the status of the Indian tribes within the limits of the United States. About 8% of the native population of the time qualified for U.S. citizenship due to being taxed. Others obtained citizenship by serving in the military, marrying whites, or accepting land allotments, such as those granted under the Dawes Act. The exclusion of native peoples from the U.S. citizenship was further established by Elk versus Wilkins, when the court held that native persons born a citizen of the recognized tribal nation was not born an American citizen and did not become one simply by voluntarily leaving his tribe or settling among whites. The syllabus of the decision explained that a native person who has not been naturalized or taxed or recognized as a citizen either by the United States or by the state is not a citizen of the United States within the meaning of the first section of the 14th article of the Amendment of the Constitution. The Indian Citizenship Act granted citizenship to about 125,000 or 300,000 indigenous people in the United States. To put the numbers in perspective, The U.S. population at the time was less than 125 million. The indigenous people who were not included in citizenship numbers had already become citizens by other means, entering the armed forces, giving up tribal affiliations, and assimilating with the mainstream American life were some ways that was done. Remember, a lot of our ancestors did what? They decided to stay on, purchase the land, be taxed, and claim what? They were Black Irish or Black Dutch. Okay, so where am I at? It says citizenship was granted in piecemeal fashion before the Act, which was the first more exclusive method of granting Native American citizenship. The Act did not include citizens born before the effective date of 1924 of the 24 Act or outside the United States as an indigenous person. However, it was not until the Nationality Act of 1940 that all born on U.S. soil, with limited exceptions such as children of foreign diplomats, were deemed citizens. So the Nationality Act of 1940 deemed all citizens born on U.S. soil.
Yeah, it came back and cleaned it up. It cleaned up for anybody who was born before the 1924 Act. Came and cleaned it up.
So even Native Americans who were granted, I'm sorry, go ahead, Bones.
No, that's it.
Even Native Americans who were granted citizenship rights under the 1924 Act may not have had full citizenship and suffrage rights until 1948, according to a survey of the Department of Interior. 7 states still refused to grant Indians voting rights in 1938. Discrepancies between federal and state control provided loopholes in the Act's enforcement. States justified discrimination based on state statutes and constitution. 3 main arguments for Indian voting exclusions were Indian exemption from real estate taxes, maintenance of tribal affiliation, and the notion that Indians were under guardianship or lived on lands controlled by federal trusteeship. Because remember, they were citizens when they became Indians. They just weren't taxed. What else? By 1947, all states with large Indian populations except Arizona and New Mexico had extended voting rights to Native Americans who qualify under the 1924 Act. Finally, in 1948, the states withdrew their prohibition on Indian voting because of a judicial decision. Under the 1924 Act, go ahead.
Another voting right act.
Under the 1924 Act, indigenous people did not have to apply for citizenship, nor did they have to give up their tribal citizenship to become U.S. citizens. Most tribes had communal property, and to have a right to the land, individual Indian people needed to belong to the tribe. Thus, dual citizenship was allowed. Early abuse of granting Indian citizenship has suggested allocating land to individuals of such efforts. The Dawes Act was the most prominent. The act allocated once tribally owned land to individual tribal members, and because they were landowners and eventually would pay taxes on the land and become proficient members of society, they could be granted citizenship. This idea was presented by a group of white American citizens called Friends of the Indian, who lobbied for the assimilation of indigenous people into American society. They specifically hoped to do that by elevating indigenous people to the status of U.S. citizens. Through the Dawes Act allocated land, the notion that this would be directly tied to citizenship was abandoned in the early 20th century in favor of the more direct path of American citizenship. Although some of the white citizen groups were supportive of Indian citizenship, Indians themselves were mixed in the debate. Those who supported it considered the act a way to secure a long-term standing political identity. Those who rejected it were worried about the sovereignty and citizenship. Many leaders in the Native American community at the time, like Charles Santee Sioux, were interested in Native American integration into a large society, but adamant about preserving the Native American identity. Many were also reluctant to trust a government that had taken their land and discriminated so violently against them. One group who opposed the bill was the Onondaga Nation. They believed accepting of this act was treason because the United States Senate was forcing citizenship on all Indians without their consent. According to the Iroquois, the bill disregarded previous treaties between the Indian tribes and the United States, specifically the 1784 Treaty of Fort Sandwich. But that doesn't matter because the 1866 Treaty removed never mind, because they fought on the side of the Union. They fought on the side of the North, never mind. 1784 Treaty of Fort Sandwich and the 1789 Treaty of Fort Harmore and the 1794 Treaty of Canandaigua, which the Iroquois were recognized as separate and sovereign. The removal of the word "full" from full citizenship in the text of the original bill was used as a reason why some Native Americans were not granted the immediate right to vote with the bill. On May 19, 1924, Snyder said at the House that the New York Indians were very much opposed to this, but I'm perfectly willing to take the responsibility if the committee seems to agree to this. After passing the bill, Snyder became the representative of some of these Indians. So, do I need to read them all? I don't think so.
The one thing that should stand out in this, the Indians at this time that's living on tribes, they got representation. You notice who don't? The urban Indians.
Mm-hmm. James Flames, what you got to say, bro? Help us out with this. There.
Man, I lost my voice and my microphone. Greetings to those on the panel, to those in the chat.
Gotcha, bro.
Just walking down the street again and again throwing rocks at dogs. And while I was listening in, and it's like, wait a minute, hold up, stop, wait a minute, pause. I just wanted to just read a little something right quick, just to go back to you all were mentioning about the PIH, and then HUD, and knowing that there are no HUD codes, there are all PIH codes. I just want to put a little something to bed. This is regarding the Tulsa, aka Black Wall Street. And the source here is history.com. So I know people are like, oh man, you don't have information. So I'll put the link in the back chat if you can share it. I'm not gonna bore you, but it talks about the Greenwood Avenue, being the three main streets where you get the Gap Band, you drop the bomb on me. Then it was talking about before the Tulsa Race Massacre, where the city's Black district of Greenwood was attacked by a white mob. We all know about that, and they were literally bombed. It talks about, where it began in May 31st of 1921. But I really want to read this part right here because here's where it gets very, very interesting. It says, developed on Indian territory. So anyone that keeps talking about these Africans establishing Black Wall Street says founded in 1906, Greenwood was developed on Indian territory. Why is that important? Because it goes back to 1866. The best way I can put it is when you go back and look at between Andrew Johnson and Lyndon Baines Johnson, concentrate between those two presidencies, that time period, or better yet known as Johnson and Johnson. They started finding out that Johnson & Johnson baby powder was poisoning you, giving you cancer. Women, you were having birth problems. Look between Johnson and Johnson. I'm off this mic.
So they gave a bunch of quote unquote black people Indian land.
Article 4 of the 1866 treaty.
I know the one you're talking about, but I'm just saying it because it's like, think about this. Wouldn't there have been an uprising from the Indians if the Indians weren't black? Because how you going to give their land to some black people if they're not the same people? They got upset when you gave their land to white folks or to immigrants, but they're not going to get upset when you give their land to black folks. Why wouldn't you? Because they're the same people. That's all I'm saying.
And no Indians joined the white mob to try to bomb these blacks out of Tulsa. Where were the Indians when all this was going on?
They told you that the Indians were working in the farms and setting up the shops and the booths and the stores. But hold up, man.
Frida, you need to come in here. Frida says because we Renties were Indians, because it was my family in Rentisville, Oklahoma, we had cemeteries. And she says Oklahoma was supposed to become an all-black state.
Exactly. Which is why I still have a second cousin. She is still alive, whose mother was born on an Indian reservation. Now, how did that happen?
Bones told y'all to put the hard hats on. Y'all ain't listen. Now y'all got concussions.
You know why they labeled you urban? They try to give you the urban dealing with the Latin. But urban, goes back to a language that is older than Latin. Means the place of fire. Ban means to put out. That is why when they mention people about the cities and urbans, because your flame has been put out. You are no longer an illuminator. Think about it. I'm off the cotton picking mic.
Oh, no.
You just can't drop that and then get off the mic. Ain't nobody touching that mic, man.
No, but tie this in now. Tie in that in between the top of the 1900s to 1970s, you had the Great Migration of our people leaving from out of the South, going to these urban cities. They tell you that the Indians left and went to the urban cities. But if you check history, there's only one Great Migration where that happened at with a group of people. And that's us between the top of the 1900s to 1970s. It's called the Great Migration. Over 6 million of us relocated to the cities.
What were those years again?
Between the top of, I want to say 1910 to 1970.
During the time all these black codes and Jim Crow and all that stuff. Not running away with Harriet Winslow to go north. Not even after the Civil War, when you was eyes free now. But it wasn't until the 20th century that coloreds started running toward the urban areas.
Yep, look at your genealogy. You'll see it in your genealogy that at the 1900s, you'll see family members starting to go north. Study it. You'll see it in certain lines. Whole groups of families in the South just moved north all of a sudden.
Mississippi, you went to Chicago, Alabama, you headed up to Detroit. If you were in the Carolinas, anywhere south of there, you headed up to New York, Philly, all in that area. And you will hear people up there say, yeah, I got folks down there, but I don't go down there too often. Or when you got in trouble in the big city, they would send you down there to live with your grandparents in the South. Think about it. But you don't know who you are. But you claiming to be African American. But all these Indians left. Where did they go? Because they didn't die. Where did they go? And who are they? Yes, you, Urban League, those whose fire, whose light has been put out because you have forgotten who you are. Do your genealogy. I'm off the mic. I gotta go.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean that all families did it. It's just in some cases, some of us, you'll see the mass migration in your families. And again, it doesn't mean all families did. Some families stayed in the areas. Some families, they adjusted to the cities, to the factories, to that new form of life that they was being ran to.
So Antonio asks, what happens if it happened the other way around? If it was reverse, meaning you have family up north that went south. I think that's his question. Yeah. What if you see the opposite?
Very rarely do you see the opposite. If those that were up north came south, is you were pushed out during the British. You won't find too many. I'll put it this way: you won't find too many that came from the north and went south unless you were forced out. You didn't voluntarily just say, I'm going south. And those that came from the north, you'll find out if they came from the north and came south, they were reuniting with their families that were already in the south.
Yeah, everybody's talking about in the chat how their family left. Joe 47 says, mine left Louisiana and immigrated to Texas, and some from Texas stayed in Texas. David Corey says, Virginia headed to New York and the South. Go ahead, James.
No, I was going to say that the reason why when you talk about those that left Louisiana or even Alabama or Florida and coming to Texas, that's a lateral move. That's because you haven't gotten into it yet, but Texas, again, I'll say it again, was Armageddon. That was the last stand. That's why you will find this lateral move from what they misnomered Muskogee, which we know as the Alabama tribes that came to Texas. And you'll find out not only Texas, but you must look at that whole region. So from Texas, which Texas covered Oklahoma and Kansas and Colorado, all the way down into what we call Mesoamerica and South America today. That whole region, you're going to see all of these wars taking place, but they'll divide it up because they want to make you think that this is only the Texas Indian War. But you need to get into the Orange Caste Wars that took place along Belize and Guatemala. You look at all of the Spanish-Mexican War. All of this was us. And I hate to use that terminology because it reminds me of somebody else. But that's the best verbiage I can give. All of it was us. So from that whole region, you're going to see all of these battles going on, which is why you're going to see so many Seminoles in Texas. What are Seminoles doing in Texas? So that's a lateral move. So if your folk, because my folk, like I say, Alabama, Coushatta, as well as Choctaw. So you're going to see that lateral move. Everyone was migrating to Texas because they knew this was the final battle. We had to combine forces. We had to be like Voltron. And the Caddo, AKA the Natchez, formed the head. Thanks, brother, no sellout. And all y'all Baptiste that are up in this camp, I yield the mic.
See, a lot of stuff is making sense for people right now. I'm seeing people in the chat just pop about where their family from the south end up going north. Again, that's the reason why we do this show. And again, what James is saying is that all the Indians that were from the south, from basically from North Carolina, went back to Florida and Texas. So when you say Texas and Florida Indians are the toughest, all the Indians from that area actually moved south to fight. So it's not just Texas and Florida Indians, it's all the Indians. It's the remnants from all those tribes, from Virginia all the way down, or anywhere south of the Mason-Dixie would be basically Maryland South. So something to think about.
and they wasn't walking barefoot. They had shoes and they had boats. Thanks, Itza.
David Corsi, y'all all my cousins. Yeah. So hopefully all this stuff is starting to make sense to everybody when they do their genealogy, because what you realize is that families were starting to come back south. All right, Frida, I'll at you later. Thanks for catching the cab with us.
Peace, Frida.
And not to be confused with Frida Gordon. That was Frida Renty.
Yes. With.
So I want to at least read the. Go ahead.
I'm curious. I'm gonna pull it up so I can post it in the forum or in the chat. I found a document maybe about 6 months ago, and I dismissed it because it didn't sound right. But basically, Oklahoma on paper was owned by the natives.
Well, Frida just said that was supposed to be an all Indian state. It was supposed to be basically a AKA all black state, because they was trying to move all of us over there. So that would make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you have that, go ahead. Well, James, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that is equivalent. Oklahoma was equivalent to the Mormons getting Utah. They were giving us our own land to govern ourselves. Look at when Oklahoma became a state. And study the Oklahoma Sooners. And I'm not talking about the college team. I'm talking about study what took place what the Oklahoma Sooners did. And smushed in between all these Indian wars. Check out the German war, the German rebellion that took place in what we know as Southeast Texas and North and Southwest Louisiana. And why you'll find a lot of German towns in Central and South Texas is because the Germans, those that were there, and those Germans that we call Germans, are Acadians. When they finally figured out, hey, we're being treated the same way as y'all, although we used to battle with y'all, now they realizing they were getting smushed out too. Look up the German battle. Look up the German rebellion that took place in Louisiana and Texas. All of it's going to start. You're going to see how all this starts tying in. All of it starts tying in. That these are these Acadians trying to make their last stand to say, hey, we need all the help we can get, and we find ourselves surrounded by these Indians, and we're going to need their help in order to fight off what we call the Union or the United States government. It all will follow the breadcrumbs. It'll lead you back to the table.
And I was talking on mute. Oh. So let's go. Go ahead.
Antonio's dumb.
What do you do?
Somebody said y'all show remind them of the Harriet movie. Oh, actually, yeah, two witnesses did say that. How's that, two witnesses? What are we reminded? Said somebody was reminding us of the Harriet movie. Copper said the name Oklahoma comes from the Choctaw phrase Oklahoma, literally meaning red people. Yeah.
All right. So we're gonna start reading the first. I'm gonna start reading the first chapter. Bones, you was gonna say something? Okay. He said, Don't nobody want to go after James. Damn it.
I ain't touching that.
Well, I'm gonna read the Texas Indian Wars. All right. I'm gonna read it. All right. Texas Indian Wars were a series of 19th century conflicts between settlers in Texas and Southern Plains Indians. These conflicts began when the first wave of European American settlers moved into Spanish Texas. So what was Spanish Texas? This is from 1820 to 1875. So from the time they started bringing these 17 million Europeans over, aka Irish and Germans, that's when the Spanish Indian War started. So Spanish Texas was one of the territory provinces of the Spanish.
I'm sorry, what's
between 1820 and 1875.
You know this? You got Indian Wars, Civil War, all this going on at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, all this is going on at the same time.
Timelines.
Oh, thank you, sir. So it says the Spanish Texas was one of the interior provinces of the Spanish colonial viceroyalty of New Spain from 1690 to 1821. That's a long time to be controlling something. Spain had claimed ownership of the territory in 1519, which comprised part of the present-day U.S. states of Texas, including the land north of the Medina and Nueces rivers, but did not attempt to colonize the area until after located evidence of the failed French colony at Fort St. Louis in 1689 and 1690. Alonso de Leon escorted several Catholic missionaries to East Texas, where they established the first mission in Texas. When native tribes resisted the Spanish invasion of their homeland, the missionaries returned to Mexico, abandoning Texas for the next 2 decades. Then it says the Spanish returned to the southeastern Texas in 1716, establishing several missions and a presidio to maintain a buffer between Spanish territory and the French colonial Louisiana district of New France. So this goes to show you that New Spain and New France territories were simultaneous. 2 years later, in 1718, the first civilian settlement in Texas, San Antonio, originated as a way station between the missions and the next nearest existing settlement. The new town soon became the target for raids by the Lipan Apache. The raids continued periodically in almost 3 decades until Spanish settlers and the Lipan Apache peoples made peace in 1749. But the treaty angered the enemies of the Apache and resulted in raids on Spanish settlements by the Comanche, the Tanakawa, and the Hasina tribes. Fear of Indian attacks and remoteness of the area from the rest of the viceroyalty discouraged European settlers from moving to Texas. It remained one of the provinces least populated by immigrants. The threat of attacks did not decrease until 1785 when Spain and the Comanche peoples made a peace agreement. The Comanche tribe later assisted in defeating the Lipan Apache and the Karankawa tribes, who had continued to cause difficulties for the settlers. An increase in the number of missions in the province allowed for peaceful Indian reductions of other tribes. And by the end of the 18th century, only a few of the nomadic hunting and gathering tribes in the area had not converted to Roman Catholicism. That's something to think about. So a lot of these nomadic tribes converted to Catholicism. Basically meant that they were Roman Catholic. So you got Roman Catholic Indians in the West, and guess what a lot of the Southern Indians were.
Protestant Indians in the North and in the South. Protestant versus Catholic again.
Same war, different people.
That's it.
So it's basically a Protestant Catholic war in Texas all over again. France formally relinquished its claim to its territory of Texas in 1762 when it ceded French Louisiana to the Spanish Empire. The inclusion of Spanish Louisiana into New Spain meant that Tejas lost its significance as essentially a buffer province, Tejas being Texas. The eastmost Texas settlements were disbanded, with population relocation to San Antonio. However, in 1799, Spain gave Louisiana back to France, and in 1803, Napoleon Bonaparte sold the territory to the United States of America as part of Louisiana Purchase. Stop.
What else went on at this time? Isn't this the same time when France told all them French people that they sent over here to come back to France?
Exactly.
All these Arcadians and these 20,000 prostitutes and these 10,000 convicts.
So think about this. Spain, let me highlight this. Spain gave Louisiana back to France. There's a difference between giving it and it being ceded. You cede something over when you lose a war. You give it as a gift. Why was Spain...
What happened? The edict was signed and they stopped the Protestant and Catholic war. That's why the timelines are so important. So you can see worldwide what was going on. Remember, the king signed the edict and the war stopped. So no longer was the Catholics and Protestants fighting each other anymore.
So because they weren't fighting anymore, they decided to do what? Join forces. Because why else would you give the land back to the French? So Napoleon Bonaparte, who at this time was going to war and getting his butt kicked by Haiti. Remember that? He was getting his butt kicked by Haiti because why was he getting his butt kicked by Haiti? Because of the Indians that was helping him out where? In Florida.
But if you also check at this time that the invitation to come back to France was open, at this time, a lot of Indians got sent to France.
Say it again so they can hear you.
This is that time in history that a lot of Indians got sent to France. Some went willingly, some got sent to France.
Pay attention, timelines are important. So let me go back. Okay, so it says in 1803, Napoleon Bonaparte sold the territory to the United States as part of Louisiana Purchase. President Jefferson, in office 1801 to 1809, insisted that the purchase included all land to the east of the Rocky Mountains and the north of the Rio Grande. Although its large southwestern expansion lay within New Spain, the territory ambiguity remained unresolved until Adams' Owners Treaty Compromise in 1819, when Spain ceded Spanish Florida to the United States in return for recognition of the Sabine River as the eastern boundary of Spanish Texas and western boundary of the Missouri Territory. So why would Spain cede Florida to the United States? Because that's where they was going to push all the Indians, right?
Yep. Because Spain never went in there and tried to change the Indians. They just let the Indians do what they were doing.
So where we at now?
Mainly in Florida.
Go ahead.
No, I'm saying mainly in Florida. Because remember, it's Spanish Florida.
Exactly. So then where I'm at, it says the United States relinquished its claims on the vast Spanish territories west of the Sabine River and extended into Santa Fe de Nuevo Mexico, province of New Mexico. During the Mexican War of Independence in 1810 to 1821, Texas experienced much turmoil. Rebels overthrew the Spanish Governor Manuel Maria de Salcedo in 1810, but he persuaded his jailers to release him and to assist him in organizing a counter coup. 3 years later, the Republican Army of the North, conspiring primarily of Indians and of citizens of the United States, overthrew the Spanish government in Tejas and executed Salcedo in 1813. The Spanish responded abruptly, and by 1820, fewer than 2,000 Hispanic citizens remained in Texas. The Mexican independence movement forced Spain to relinquish its control of New Spain in 1821, with Texas becoming in 1824 part of the state of Coahuila y Tejas within the newly formed Mexico. In the period in Texas history known as Mexican Texas, 1821 through 1836. The Spanish left a deep mark on Texas. Their European livestock caused mesquite to spread inland, while farmers tilled and irrigated the land, changing the landscape forever. The Spanish language provided the names of many of the rivers, towns, and countries that currently existed, and Spanish agriculture concepts still flourish as of 2018. Although Texas eventually adopted much of the Anglo-American legal system, much Spanish legal practices survived, including the concepts of homestead exemption and community property. So, goes into the initial colonization attempts. We already know it was difficult to colonize because of those wild Indians over there. So that's what I wanted to read as far as the Spanish part of Texas. Unless there's anything that y'all wanted me to continue on. Yes, no, maybe so.
Just for people to remember, everything else is going on at the same time.
Over on the East Coast. All right. So it says American settlers moved into Spanish Texas. They continued through Texas time as part of Mexico. When more Europeans and Anglo-Americans arrived to the subsequent Declaration of Independence by the Republic of Texas, the conflicts did not end until 30 years after Texas joined the United States. Although several Indian tribes occupied territory in the area, the preeminent nation was the Comanche, known as the Lords of the Plains. Their territory, the Comancheria, was the most powerful entity and persistently hostile to the Spanish, the Mexicans, and finally the Texans. These conflicts lasted from 1820, just before Mexico gained independence from Spain, until 1875, when the last free band of Plains Indians, the Comanches, led by Kahadi warrior Connor Parker, surrendered and moved to the Fort Sill reservation in Oklahoma. That's funny because Fort Sill was the base that I trained at. The half-century struggle between the Plains tribes and the Texans became particularly intense after the Spanish and then Mexicans left power in Texas. The Republic of Texas, which had increasingly settlement by European Americans in the United States, opposed the tribes. Their war with the Plains Indians was characterized by deep animosity, slaughter on both sides, and in the end, near total conquest of the Indians. I'm going to read this last paragraph. The Comanche were known as fierce warriors with a reputation for looting, burning, murdering, and kidnapping as far south as Mexico City. When Sewell Ross rescued Cynthia Ann Parker at Peace River, he observed that this event would be felt in every family in Texas, as everyone had lost someone in the Indian Wars. During the American Civil War, when the U.S. Army was unavailable to protect the frontier, the Comanche and Kiowa pushed white settlers back more than 100 miles along the Texas front. It's basically color codes that shows the colonization of America. Green is Spanish territory. Orange is Portuguese territory. Blue is French territory. Red is British territory. Now, let me ask y'all a question. Didn't the British lose the war? Why are they still over in the Americas? Brown is Russian territory. And purple is Dutch territory. Y'all see that?
Break down the colors one more time for them.
Green is Spanish territory. Orange is Portuguese or Port of Gaul territory. Blue is French territory. Red, British territory. Brown, Russian territory. And purple, Dutch territory. Now this is during the Texas Indian War. Why are the British owning anything after they were supposedly, and I'm using air quotes, got their butt mollywopped in the Revolutionary War? Oh yeah, that's right. After the Creek War, all the territory they lost, they got back. Remember that?
Yep.
And also because the 13 colonies in Britain never broke up.
Say it again, James.
The 13 colonies, or the colonies, in Britain never broke up. It's like that on again, off again relationship. The girl in school, she's a cheerleader, and the quarterback goes off to college, and he's got other girlfriends or whatever in college. But when he comes back home, who does she belong to? Please show me where the colonies, and known as the United States today, and Britain, when did they ever break up? Because we know the War of 1812, those red coats were Redskins, which were Indians. So we know that. And when I say Redskins, I'm not talking about the people today. Because the definition of what they were describing, the people that were over here, they called them cinnamon colored. Cinnamon colored. And if you look up cinnamon colored or cinnamon hue, you're going to get the same thing as copper color. Red. And not red like what they talking about. Oh, I'm the red man. No. Brown.
Oak Cliff said, Indians walking in Dutch shoes with a French name.
Exactly. And don't let the smooth taste fool you. That Texas, when they say Texas, it's Tejas, and Tejas is translated to friend. That's a lie from the pits of H-E-double hockey sticks. It does not mean that at all. Tejas, which is Texas, is short for Tatis, which is short for the Natchez. That was, like I say again, this is the final stand. Go back and read again what they initially called Texas. It was called what? Started with a C.
Hold on, I'll go back and find it. Uh-oh. Okay, so Texas was originally called... Where is it?
It was called Cayoweala.
Yeah, I'm looking for it. No, I saw it.
Don't worry about it, even though you can't find it right now. But that word actually means in Maya means peak. So when you put that together, you're dealing with the peak of the Natchez. That's why it says it's a Caddo word, and you'll find out that the Caddos is just the coming together of these again, the reassembling of the Alabama. And it was in Natchez territory, which is why you'll find all these Natchez names in what we call the Pine Land or East Texas with the red dirt. It was the last stand. Don't let them fool you that, oh, it means friend. No, it does not. They're trying to play game. It was the last stand or the peak of the Natchez. That is why they said, oh, we got to get rid of them. And then they said, oh, the Natchez were no more. No, the Natchez was still here. The Natchez just moved. Remember, they got with the Chickasaw during the battle. They went with the Chickasaw, but all that territory there was Natchez, which is why you're going to find all of these Spanish forts and Spanish missions when they're talking about San Antonio, the Alamo, and all this stuff. Who built all these missions? Because the Spanish and the French didn't. Those missions were already there. The Natchez were building these fortified places. Don't let them fool you. I yield the mic.
Yeah, David Corey says it's Carawia. Carowia. Thanks, David. Or anybody else has put it in there as well.
James, those 11 Africans weren't that busy. I thought they were building forts everywhere.
And you know, I was gonna let them make it. I was gonna do parts 3, 4, 5, and 6. But I said, you know what? I'm gonna let them make it because I believe in the mercy rule. After 10 runs, call the game. It's over. And no, cheering, everyone doesn't get a participation trophy. I'm sorry. If you lost, you lost. There's no going to CC's Pizza and getting ice cream when you got shellacked 16-0. I yield the mic.
Welcome to CC.
That same word is what you will find even dealing with Cahokia, meaning the peak. It means peak, and it's a Mayan word. That's why they can't ever tell you the definitions of these words. They just tell you, oh, it was the region here, it was the region there. Because once you start finding out that, wait a minute, it is people that look like us in these regions and that have named these areas prior to European contact. And when you know that it's people that look like the majority of us on the panel and in the chat, then you're going to start to realize your connection to being Mayan, that you are Maya, which is going to tie you back to the Olmec. So, we're going to figure it out one day. Why was the Mexican government saying, hey, you guys come back? They didn't say like, oh, come in and we'll take. It was like, it said, come back. That is why you will see this mass exodus out of the Southeast region going into Texas. It was the last stand. And of course, you'll find out later on that outside of Europeans came and made this division, because if you'll notice, and I'll say this and I'll yield the mic, that a separation of what they call Mexican didn't start until here recently with the push of outsiders trying to be politically correct. It was no matter what shade you were Mexican. All of a sudden now it's like, oh yeah, well, we want to put this on, and that's how they keep doing, dividing on the census. Because any true Mexican, I'm not talking about mestizo. I'm talking about those that are indigenous to that land, regardless of their shade, will tell you that the Olmec is the mother civilization of the Americas. And when you realize that you're Olmec, they are in essence saying, we came from you. And when you go down there and you know who you are and don't come down there as a colored American citizen, but you come down there knowing who you are treated differently. Don't let them fool you. The only ones that will treat you like trash are the European, so-called with the title of being a Mexican, but they are European. But the true indigenous people that are there, and you know who you are, and don't try to westernize them, you are going to be amazed. I yield the mic.
Ooh, mic's still hot. All right. What we gonna do? So, it's about that time, good people. About that time. Let's see. Gabrielle, you got anything you want to say to people before we head on out and let everybody get on with what they do best? Maybe she's probably busy. I'll circle back. Don't sell out.
What I learned yesterday was...
Really? Go ahead.
We salutating, yes. Grand rising, peace to the chat, peace to the panel, and everybody who participated today. If y'all have 12 more hours. 12 more hours. I mean, that wasn't 12. And somebody just came back late. Yeah, we closing out. It's Okafor. But yeah, peace to everybody that showed up today. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, and/or corrections, please email us at attentionassembly@gmail.com. Don't forget to check out the forum. You got to sign up to view the forum, so go on over there and create a username and password. Check out the things people have posted there. Yeah, number is still at the top of the screen. Gabrielle seems to be the only one that wants to use it. So, all right, call in if you need to talk to us. Appreciate the two callers from yesterday calling after hours. That was a very interesting conversation. Call back if you need to talk to us. Email us if you need to talk to us. Peace, y'all.
Yeah, I think it was Kissa and Pam. Kissa. Yeah, Kissa. Yeah. We appreciate y'all calling.
Shout out to Flint.
You stupid. You know what? Okay, so Bones, I'll let you address this because your boy Antonio Baptiste wants to know we having an A2 movie event at the Harriet Tubman premiere. I'll say this: HE double hockey sticks, no.
Yeah,
not today, tomorrow, no time in the future. Oh, hold on, no. No.
Yeah, I think even an illegal download will get Comcast paid somehow. Not watching that movie. There's no Wakanda forever.
Yeah, I'd rather watch the Marvel movie. They about the equivalent supernatural powers and whatnot. Man, I'm not even. Never mind.
So, All right, James Flames, through the vision. What you got for the good people before they head on out?
To the panelists, Gabrielle Union, No Sellout, aka Eject Button. I appreciate you, sir. More stuff was going on last night. Appreciate you, brother. Every time I get called into a meeting, I have to think of you. That's the only thing that keeps me centered, helps me to reach my chi. So I appreciate you, sir, very, very much. Even the late night hours when getting messages, I appreciate you. I appreciate you. Matter of fact, I'm gonna start forwarding my voicemails and emails to you, sir. So I appreciate you.
Oh, man.
For all you have done and all you continue to do and all you will ever do. I thank you. And the people thank you. To Thomas, keep doing what you're doing, bro. Like I say, people don't understand how much work it goes into. Everybody want to give Charlemagne the God props. My man, he the best interviewer ever on the Breakfast Club. I beg to differ. When it comes to knowing the knowledge, the truth of being who you are as an Indian, it takes a whole lot to make a show or a program flow smoothly. So I appreciate you. Brother Bones, back there, I know he hitting those switches again. Like I say, he's in there like the dude on Men in Black when Will Smith had to go and get Tommy Lee Jones out of the post office. You know, he opened up that thing. That's Bones back there with all the arms doing all that mail. No smoking. No smoking. The brother Copper Indio, man, still y'all just don't know. Y'all sleeping on him. Y'all better stop sleeping on him. That's all I'm gonna say. That's all I'm going to say. Big brother Kerry Bay, the holy man. I know he's still back there. He is truly the carpenter's son, in case y'all didn't know. Y'all better get with brother Kerry Bay because he's doing major things. Mm-hmm. And then to those in the chat, again, the greatest chat in the cosmos. Puss in Boots, man, I need to talk to you, man, because I got some more information for you. I know you over there, you trying to stay on that fence, but I'm telling you, keep riding that fence, somebody gonna throw a shoe at you in the middle of the night, man. Puss in Boots, come on in, man. Got some stuff for you. But don't let the smooth taste fool you. Just a little bit of information, and then I'm gonna yield the mic. You will understand that whole area. You're gonna start to find out how all of these names start tying in. You're gonna find out about Waco, Texas, Caddo Mills, which someone said that the Mount Pleasant area, you're gonna find out where all these people started coming all together. Wichita Falls, all of this falls into Texas, or what they call New Spain. And then it later became known as Mexico. Then it became known as New Mexico. That whole area was the coming together, the reunification of all of these tribes for the final battle. And if you don't think the battle is still going on today, you got another thing coming, because we are still fighting. Don't let them fool you on these names, what they try to call us. Look at what we call ourselves and who we are. And they don't give you these definitions. They say, oh, it's a Caddo word meaning friend. No, what was friendly about Texas during this time? Why would they give it that name at that time? And then look at the Natchez when they said they were a nation no more. Why did they try to focus on they were a nation no more? But they weren't in Texas yet. The Europeans weren't in Texas like that yet. And then you're going to start seeing the wave of these Scott Irish, AKA Germans, AKA Melungeons, AKA First Nations, AKA Native Americans coming down under the auspices of volunteers from Tennessee and Kentucky. Because the Union, what we know it as, was getting their heads handed to them in a handbasket. The final battle, Armageddon, Texas, again, focus on it. Not saying because I'm here, I'm telling you the fact. Why do you think, and I'll say this now, why you think that why are there ITSA settlements in Texas? Yeah, think about it. Why all these ports? Port Arthur, Galveston. Find out who was controlling these ports and who built these ports long before the Europeans. That was our Navy. Thanks, Itza. I'm out this cotton picking mic. Oh, I'm sorry. I gotta say this. I'm sorry, and then I'm gonna be gone. Someone, man, Puss in Boots, you keep talking about Harriet Winslow. I got two things. I want to know why. One, what happened to the daughter, the youngest daughter? She went upstairs and never came back. So they got an answer for that. And why was it the last 9 episodes? Why did they pull the same stunt that they pulled on Fresh Prince of Bel-Air? Why did Harriet change? What happened? I'm out this cotton picking mic.
Skinned him. To the youngest daughter.
Oh man.
What Bones?
Oh no, that sounded frustrating. It was like ultimately frustrating, just exhausting. Yeah. What? No, what happened?
Not for real, laugh. Kisha showed up. Peace, Kisha. So,
Please, Grand Rapids.
so Puss in Boots is Antonio.
Oh, what?
Gabby asked who Puss in Boots was.
Oh, she was in the back. Oh, yeah, she did. Yeah. So Gabby, I guess you don't want to go after James. You want me to go. So you want to go after me? You can go after me. You want to go after me? Just after the chat. You can go after me. So, I want to say peace and grand rising to the new subscribers. We definitely appreciate you. And peace to the silent majority. We always hear from you. Just because we don't see you in the chat don't mean we don't see you. So just know we see you in the forum and in email. So we definitely appreciate you. And to the best chat on earth, y'all just be cutting up. And I'm just going to leave it at that. Keep doing what you do. And to the panel, y'all know what it is. Much love, much respect. Y'all make what I do fun. Y'all make it easy. And since Gabby volunteered, she's going to be doing some reading. So y'all get to hear Gabby do some reading coming up shortly. So stay tuned for that. That's pretty much all I got. Remember, everything we do is for the etymology and for you to find out who you are. Keep doing your research, keep doing your genealogy. And the reason why, again, we do what we do is to help you tie all this stuff together, because you need all this information. Census records, the instructions to the enumerators for the census record up until 1970. So that means you need the enumeration instructions from 1960 all the way back to 1790. Remember that. The enumeration instructions from 1960 all the way back to 1790. Those is the enumeration instructions you need to download and look at them so you'll know exactly what's going on in the census when you look at the census. And don't forget the state census. So, just keep everything in mind. Let's do this. So, Gabby, you want to go? Got anything you want to share? Go ahead.
Peace and blessings to the panel. Peace and blessings to the chat. This is... Well, I gotta pull every book that I got in my house and reread it.
Thing rains. Oh, sorry.
Well, yeah. Peace and blessings to all.
That's it. That's got to be the shortest speech on the planet.
You have no idea.
You got to
Like,
put people on the spot, TMH.
you don't understand. My computer started messing up. My phone started messing up. My tablet started messing up. I was behind. I'm pulling stuff, reading stuff.
Yeah. Yes. 1790 to 1960. The enumeration instructions. That will help a lot. That will explain a lot. Blame
I was
Bones
just
because
asking. You said 1960 to 1790, and I wasn't sure if I was hearing that right.
Yeah, 1790 to 1960, right? Because until then, the enumerators were the one that was determining people's genealogy. They were the ones that was like classifying and labeling people. So, yeah. Just do a little bit at a time, you know. But you don't got no more furniture tomorrow. She should give you some more time to do what you need to do. I'm just saying. But anyway. And why your cousin in the chat venting about chicken ain't real chicken?
Is he?
Come on, buddy.
No, but every chat is more informative than the last, and it's helpful. Like it just makes more sense. Every chat, every question just brings more enlightenment to the next question and the next answer. Yeah, this is the best chat.
You
Bounce. You got it, bro.
no problem. Such thing, Gabby, aka Van Range. No sellout, TMH. Doo for the work y'all put in on the show to make it is what it is. Like to thank the chat that's active every day and the ones that's not active. That's just listening to the information and applying it. The one thing today's show should point out, the importance of when you're going through history to find your story. Why not to get caught up in one event? To realize it's not a straight line, that you have to look to the left and look to the right, sometimes up and down. Check the locations because it'll answer a lot of questions to why during census years there's missing relatives. Why some census people disappeared and popped back up 10 years later. It lets you know what was going on in particular areas at the time. When you realize in some of these areas where relatives were living, wars started breaking out. Then you can follow the migration to see where people went to get a better idea to where relatives relocated at. So on that note, let's keep digging. Let's make sure that we don't leave no stone unturned. So everyone, continue to have a very blissful day. Take some more time out working your genealogy. Help someone with theirs. Until the next Rising Show, peace.
Peace, y'all.
Warning, warning, warning. Hark. Shell required.